Chapter 755. This appearance was actually real. In the past, when they heard the people from Hengda say arrogantly that their school's Biyao was the prettiest among all the high schools in Yuncheng, they thought that the people from Hengda were getting better at boasting. After all, they had said that Qin Youjiao was good-looking back then, but in the end, she was not as good-looking as their school's Song Yao. But seeing this person today, they suddenly could not refute the words of those dogs from Hengda. Ah, isn't a girl from Hengda too handsome in a tie? The girl could not help but whisper excitedly. The girls in their school could only wear necklaces. Look at her face. Is this senior from Hengda next door? F***ck, could she be that Biyao? She's really beautiful. The excited voices of the surrounding girls drowned out the discussions of the boys. For the first time, the boys in a high school doubted the sexual orientation of the girls in their school. But only those from Hengda understood that this was their daily life, at the entrance of a high school. Student, are you from our school? The security guard quickly stopped Biyao and confirmed that their school did not have such a beautiful girl. No, I'm here to pick someone up. Biyao's eyes curved. The security guard looked around and asked softly, boyfriend? Biyao. No, a girl. The security guard looked disappointed and said, our school doesn't allow people from other schools to enter. Hearing this, Biyao glanced around carelessly and the corners of her lips suddenly curled up. Then I'll wait outside. The security guard immediately had a good impression of Biyao. Look, this girl was good-looking and obedient. Unlike that group of sham-8 kids, who caused a lot of commotion the first time they were refused entry to the school. However, in the library. At this moment, Biyao had already walked to the school wall at the back. She looked at the boy beside her who was wearing a white student shirt and had dyed his hair white. He crawled for a long time but did not manage to climb up. The boy turned around and when he saw Biyao's face clearly, a trace of surprise flashed past his eyes. Then, he noticed that Biyao was sizing him up and flew into a rage out of humiliation. You despise me? Biyao pursed her lips and didn't say anything. She threw her school bag into the hole and climbed over the wall. Then, she jumped down without looking back. Her smooth movements made the other boys with different colors of hair stare blankly at the white-haired boy. That person just now, from our school? It can't be. I think she's wearing the school uniform of Hengda next door. Sigh, let's stop chatting. If boss doesn't come in, he won't be able to fetch sister-in-law. At this moment, Biyao had already found grade 12 class 5 by following the class tag. Glancing at the neat rows of black heads, she realized that the class hadn't ended yet. Biyao's eyebrows twitched. She didn't expect that there would be a teacher with a worse procrastination than old one. However, a few minutes later, Biyao found that there were 4 or 5 boys outside. They seemed to be waiting for someone. Biyao slowly retracted her gaze, took out her earphones, and looked at the documents in boredom. In the classroom. Teacher Li, I really saw Song Yao interacting with the youths outside. Although Song Yao is an adult, she can't ruin the atmosphere of our school, right? Su Xianing rolled her eyes and glanced at the girl who had spoken sternly just now. She snorted. Song Yao would like them? The people around did not understand why Su Xianing was suddenly so protective of Song Yao. She used to like teasing Song Yao the most. Chapter 756. Su Xianing, don't tell me you changed your attitude so quickly just because you might know Song Yao. The girl's words were sharp. However, Su Xianing fell out with her in the next second. She slammed the table and stood up, her expression dark. Say that again? The girl was shocked, but seeing that the teacher was around, she was fearless. Am I not telling the truth? After that competition, you seem to have changed into a different person. You used to hate Song Yao the most. I think you're looking for trouble, aren't you? Su Xianing laughed coldly. Su Xianing. The form teacher's expression was cold. Do you treat the school as your home? Su Xianing stopped talking and glanced at Song Yao unwillingly. Seeing Song Yao's indifferent expression, she gritted her teeth and did not say anything more. King deserved to be bullied. Su Xianing was furious. Song Yao, what do you say? The form teacher said calmly, you've already stayed in high school for 2 years longer than the others. Do you still want a 3rd year? I don't know those people. Song Yao's tone was cold and she glanced at the girl beside her. The girl was not frightened at all. Instead, she said proudly, I saw you calling someone and asking to meet them after school. Are you sure that punk isn't waiting for you at the door? Do I need to prove anything to you? Song Yao's lips curved and her eyes were gentle. However, her words were inexplicably harsh. The form teacher's expression darkened. Song Yao. If what Li Dan said is true, I'll consider letting you leave school. With that said, Song Yao clenched her fists and sized up the woman in front of her. Back then, this woman had received her father's favor. When the Song family was glorious, this woman told everyone how good her relationship with the Song family was. However, after the Song family was defeated, this woman was the first to target her. A faint sarcasm appeared in Song Yao's eyes. Free Chinese Yu Ling had made her life realistic and cruel. Teacher Li, look if that's white hair. When the girl saw the eye-catching white hair outside, she immediately said to the form teacher. Then, she glanced at Song Yao gloatingly. The form teacher's expression was dark as she glanced at Song Yao and walked out of the class. Everyone could not help but look at Song Yao. Some were gloating, while others remained silent. They all felt that Song Yao deserved it. Who asked her to bear the burden of a human life? At this moment, the form teacher found the white-haired young man and frowned. You know Song Yao? His words also made Bai Yunj, who was standing at the side, stop what he was doing and look up at the scene. I do. The white-haired youth frowned and asked with a frivolous smile, Yo, teacher, you're looking for me. Are you Song Yao's boyfriend? The homeroom teacher's tone turned even colder, and he had a look of disgust on his face. Everyone in the classroom was waiting for the boy's reply. Only Song Yao glanced at the person at the door calmly. Yeah, what's wrong? Can't I? After the boy finished speaking, Li Dan's face was filled with joy as she looked at Song Yao proudly. Song Yao, let's see if you can scram this time, however, in the next second. Before anyone could react, the boy who had spoken was kicked by someone and fell to the ground. A painful howl attracted everyone's attention. Then, everyone turned around and saw a girl in uniform walking lazily at the door. Her eyes were beautiful and arrogant. However, her tone was a little dangerous. I think you're quite bold. Chapter 757. Bai Yunj did not look up at the form teacher. She only kicked the white-haired young man with the tip of her shoe and sneered. Say it again. I didn't hear you clearly just now. What are you doing? The white-haired young man looked into Bai Yunj's eyes and felt inexplicably terrified. This was the girl who had just climbed over the wall. It was his first time meeting a girl of this age with such terrifying eyes. She was clearly smiling, but there was coldness in her eyes. Since when is it your turn to be Song Yao's boyfriend? Bai Yunj asked in return. The atmosphere was inexplicably cold. Everyone inside could not help but stare at the girl in front of them. Wasn't this girl too good-looking? She was actually Song Yao's friend? Who are you? This is a school. What are you doing? The form teacher's expression changed and she immediately questioned. In the next moment, her sharp eyes saw Bai Yunj's school badge clearly. You're from Hengda. Aren't you afraid that I'll look for Hengda's teachers and be punished? Year 3 Class 7, Bai Yunj. Bai Yunj glanced at her and suddenly, her eyes curved. In front of the form teacher, she slowly pinned the school badge on her chest. This action was simply a provocation. When the people inside heard this, they exploded. F***CK, F***CK. Bai Yunj? Hengda Bai Yunj? Isn't this their school bell? She's too awesome. Do you need me to leave the principal's number? Then can you let Song Yao go back with me earlier? Bei Yunj asked slowly. When the other girls heard this, their hearts inexplicably exploded. This scene was actually a girl's home ground? Suddenly, they felt that puppy love was too weak. At least, their boyfriends did not have the guts to ask the form teacher for her. The form teacher's face was livid. She had never met a student like Bei Yunj. She was a hot potato. Bei Yunj did not care. Song Yao's form teacher was still present. She lowered her head and kicked the white-haired young man. Her tone seemed to be teasing, but it made one's scalp turn numb. Our Tian still has to go to university. I'll break the legs of whoever affects her studies. Friend, do you understand? As soon as he finished speaking, everyone around felt an inexplicable pain in their legs. This was the first time he had met a girl who had her own aura. This person from Hengda was too ruthless. Everyone looked at Song Yao enviously. Song Yao was speechless. Did she read the romance novels her mother bought in her shop again? The homeroom teacher couldn't even finish his sentence. It was the first time that the surrounding students had seen such a wild person. Bei Yunj did not look at her and walked straight to class 5. In front of everyone, he walked to Song Yao's side. Why do you have all kinds of trash around you? Bei Yunj asked slowly. His words made the people around him hold their breaths. Li Dan, who was next door, was even more agitated. Li Dan's face turned red and green. Song Yao, don't think that you can cover for you just because you found a helper. You know very well whether or not you've done those dirty things. Bei Yunj half raised his eyes, the cold light in his eyes leaking out. It made Li Dan's body stiffen. Bei Yunj walked to Li Dan's side and picked up her workbook. Li Dan did not dare to stop her. I'm done packing. Song Yao suddenly said. Bei Yunj read the name on the workbook. Li Dan. She smirked and placed the workbook on the table. You know quite a lot, so student Li has to remember it clearly. If Song Yao cries for me, it's about time for you to pack your things and drop out of school. Chapter 758. This was the first time everyone present had encountered such an open threat. Bei Yunj. The form teacher's expression was ugly. Bei Yunj slowly glanced at everyone present and the corners of her lips curled up. Of course, she's not the only one I'm talking about. Inexplicably, the people on the field shuddered. However, Su Xianing could not help but look at Bei Yunj again. She could not help feeling envious. Although this Bei Yunj was ignorant and incompetent, did nothing and always bullied Song Yao. But only she would protect Song Yao so openly and fearlessly. No wonder Song Yao only liked Bei Yunj. Bei Yunj, are you used to being presumptuous in Hengda? Why are you acting like a tyrant in our school now? The form teacher said sternly. Teacher, you're too agitated. Am I not helping you solve Song Yao's puppy love problem? Bei Yunj's eyes curved, but the smile did not reach her eyes. The form teacher froze. It had to be said that students of Bei Yunj's age rarely had such a scary aura. Let's go. After Bei Yunj took her away, the form teacher finally regained her senses. After school, the students in class 5 could not help but discuss. That's Bei Yunj from Hengda. No wonder they say that the average looks of Hengda have been raised by her. Someone could not help but sigh. But don't you think that this person is too arrogant? It's my first time seeing such a person. Of course. Do you know who Bei Yunj's deskmate is? Hengda's school bully, Lu Yuanci. The two of them are very close. I heard from my friend that Lu Yuanci dotes on this big boss quite a lot. Hearing this, everyone could not help but imagine a sweet campus romance novel. However, in the next moment, Li Dan's cold voice sounded. What's so great about her? She was just lucky to be found by the Qin family. That's Song Yao's life. She likes to play with such wild girls. At this moment, before Su Xianing left, she chuckled. Isn't that fake young lady the lucky one? No matter what, she has occupied Bei Yunji's position for 19 years. After saying that, Su Xianing looked at Li Dan again. You said she's a wild girl, then what are you? Bei Yunji was brought up by Dean Lin Longjun. What about you? After saying this also caused Li Dan's face to turn red, and she was somewhat speechless. Lin Longjun? The former dean of the biology department of Yun University. F***CK, is it really Lin Longjun? I thought it was a joke. Even if it's not found, it can still be brought home by a famous female scientist in the country. Everyone became even more envious. Stop. Bei Yunji's voice rang out lazily from the back door, causing the young men in the front row to freeze. Originally, the white-haired punk wanted to take revenge, but when he heard that this was Lu Yuanxi's deskmate, he immediately dismissed the idea. This was the deskmate of Hengda's school bully. No wonder his temper was so bad. What do you want? The white-haired young man took a step back. Song Yao held Bei Yunji's wrist and glanced at the white-haired young man. He helped me before. That's right. I'm not a bad person. Hearing Song Yao speak up for him, the white-haired young man heaved a sigh of relief. Back then, when Song Yao was bullied, he had found many people to help protect her. Then why did you say that you're Song Yao's boyfriend? Bei Yunji asked. I am protecting her. The white-haired young man turned his head away guiltily. I'm also pursuing Song Yao. Chapter 759. Song Yao said, I don't like you. Yu looked up and met Song Yao's gentle eyes. At this moment, they were filled with calmness. His heart slowly ached. Although this was not the first time he had been rejected. Then, just as Yu wanted to look away, he saw Bei Yunji watching the show from the corner of his eye. Yu was speechless. Did the person beside him not have any sympathy at all? Bei Yunji also felt Yu's gaze and said apologetically, I'm sorry, I couldn't help it. Yu was speechless. Song Yao was speechless. Do you like straight-A students? If you like straight-A students, I'll repeat year 3. Yu said confidently and seriously, it's not a problem to get first place in the cohort. Yu's results before he quit school were quite good and he had always been in the top 10 of the cohort. In the words of the teacher, he was smart and understood everything with just a hint. Yu. Song Yao frowned. Song Yao, don't reject me. If you really don't like me, then tell me a goal that I can't reach. Don't make me give up so quickly. Yu clenched his fists and stared straight at her. Song Yao was silent for a long time. She looked up at him. I only like the first place in Hengda's year 3 cohort. Bei Yunji turned to look at Song Yao. Really? Then it's a deal. I'll tell my father now that I want to go to Hengda. When Yu heard this, she was so elated that she almost jumped up. Then, she immediately ran off. Bei Yunji shook the glass milk bottle unhappily. You want him to go to Hengda? Wouldn't that make him her schoolmate? Yu's results are very good. As long as he studies hard, he can easily get into a good university. Song Yao smiled. Aren't you afraid that he'll get first place? Bei Yunji laughed and asked slowly. The 6th book? Aren't you here? Song Yao's voice was still very gentle as she reached out to wipe the milk stains on Bei Yunji's lips. After Bei Yunji drank the milk, he threw the glass bottle into the rubbish bin and said slowly, I didn't say that I'm the first in Hengda. Then will you lose to me? Song Yao suppressed the smile on her lips. Bei Yunji glanced at her and smiled lazily. I won't. Song Yao could not help holding Bei Yunji's hand. Her gentle eyes were exceptionally beautiful. Why are you looking for me today? It's your brother again? Bei Yunji responded with a dark look in her eyes. Did you kiss your brother? Song Yao's sudden question made Bei Yunji look up suddenly. I've never seen your ears turn red when you mentioned him before. Song Yao said in a gentle voice with curved lips. She was very good at observing the subtle expressions of others, especially after she went bankrupt. No. Baiyunj inexplicably recalled the scene from last time, and her ears couldn't help but burn. As expected. In the blink of an eye, she saw Song Yao looking at her with a smile. He was drunk and didn't do anything out of line. After Baiyunj finished speaking, Song Yao didn't speak, but her eyes were filled with disbelief. Baiyunj changed the topic. But the day after he woke up, he didn't remember anything. What people do when they're drunk is usually what they want to do the most, Song Yao said. Hearing this, Baiyunj thought of the few times after Huashidu got drunk. He was very clingy to her, liked to find trouble with her, and bully her. Song Yao said, Yunj, how does he usually treat you? P.S. Sister Yao is the front-line assist. Next chapter is sugar. Good people remember the monthly votes. Chapter 760. Usually, Baiyunj said without thinking, she likes to seduce me. Song Yao was speechless. Is there anything you don't dare to think about? Baiyunj turned around and felt Song Yao's deep distrust. You don't believe me? Baiyunj stopped in her tracks and narrowed her pretty eyes. She reached out and pressed Song Yao's head. From afar, the students from First High School saw their school belle, Song Yao, being pressed by the school belle, Baiyunj, from Hengda next door. The scene was so sweet. The students from First High School were speechless. What was wrong with the school belle now? Why wasn't she in a relationship with the school beau? Did I see wrongly? Song Yao and Baiyunj? Song Yao pulled Baiyunj's tie just now. Did you see it? It's so sweet. Boo-hoo-hoo, Master Pei is so handsome in a tie. The boy eating Odin next door was slapped by the girl who was overly excited about the couple and the Odin rolled to the ground. The boy was speechless. Could a male couple no longer satisfy this group of people? Back home. Baiyunj thought about Song Yao's distrust just now and glanced at the time. There was still more than an hour before Huashidu returned. At this thought, Baiyunj went to take a shower first. She slowly poured a glass of water downstairs and went upstairs to read for a while. Until 8:30 p.m., Baiyunj ate grapes and leaned lazily against the railing of the corridor on the second floor, looking at the empty hall. Just as expected. The man had returned at some point. He was sitting on the sofa and having a video conference with the higher-ups. The man's handsome and dignified eyes were calm. Under his gold-rimmed glasses, his pair of cold upturned eyes were dangerous and deep, filled with an inexplicable aggressiveness. Love you e-book. His thin red lips curled up and he threw the documents on the table. Is this what you gave me in 2 weeks? The higher-ups who were in the meeting did not dare to say a word. After a while, the man sensed that someone was standing in front of him. He looked up and didn't expect to see Baiyunj. After that, the executives in the meeting felt that their CEO's voice was inexplicably less cold. Give me another proposal tomorrow. Meeting adjourned. After Huashidu finished speaking, he hung up the video call and sized up the girl in front of him, who was wearing a white shirt and had a pair of slender and fair legs. The color of spring under his shirt seemed like it could be seen at any time. His eyes gradually darkened, and even the light disappeared. He had hung up the video call just now because he was afraid that this young lady would dare to run in front of his camera while dressed like this. Your hair hasn't dried yet. Huashidu reminded her and lowered his head again. He did not look at Baiyunj and prepared to continue working. However, in the depths of his half-dark eyes, he was thinking about other things and was unable to focus. Baiyunj raised her eyebrows. Normally, Huashidu would personally help her dry her hair. Brother, Baiyunj suddenly called out. Huashidu replied nonchalantly, okay. Have you been very busy recently? Baiyunj asked again. Huashidu saw Baiyunj suddenly approaching and looked up at her. He placed a bunch of keys on the table. I prepared them for you. Baiyunj, why did this D*MN man have a completely different attitude towards her when he was awake? Brother, I can't understand my math homework. Biyao sat on the carpet and rested her chin on one hand. Her beautiful eyes were smiling as she looked at the man. P.S. Continue at night. Chapter 761. The man looked down and saw the little girl's loose collar, outlining the girl's charm. Her beautiful eyes were curved, making his Adam's apple tighten. Wuxia hid the darkness in his eyes and reached out casually to pinch her cheek punishingly. He chuckled softly. Didn't Yunyan score full marks in mathematics? He did not know what this child was thinking. She was so clingy to him today. Biyao was speechless. If you want to go out for a meal today, I'll bring you there when I'm done. Wuxia chuckled and scratched the girl's chin. Yunyan, come and find trouble with me later. Biyao looked at the man's dark eyes that were filled with carelessness and blatant seduction. Her heart thumped inexplicably. Then, just as Biyao was about to blow dry her hair, she suddenly saw a message from Song Yao. Song Yao, don't take it to heart. Perhaps mature men are more patient with juniors and know how to coax them. Song Yao, if you make a fuss, he might take you out for a meal. If you make a fuss again, he might take you out to play in a few days. Song Yao, it's okay. I believe in Yunja's charm. Biyao was speechless. Soon. Biyao turned around and looked at Wuxia. Brother, actually, Biyao was about to stand up when the man beside her suddenly pressed her head down. She sat back down obediently. Biyao looked up at him. I have a lot of things to do today. If you want to play, I'll take you out to play in a few days. The man rubbed her head, but his eyes were not on her. Biyao was speechless. If you make a fuss again, I might take you out to play in a few days. Sure. 5200 Song Yao was right about everything. After this D*MN man drank, he seduced her until she was dizzy. After waking up, he treated her as a junior. Wuxia did not notice the little girl's torment today. He only coaxed the little girl and waited for her to go upstairs to dry her hair. But in the next moment, Wuxia felt a sudden warmth on his wrist. His gaze deepened, and when he turned around, he saw the little girl holding his wrist. Then, before he could react, the girl's faint fragrance came closer. The beautiful girl sat directly on the man's perfectly ironed suit pants. Her blouse was pulled up even higher, and her straight and fair legs were somewhat ambiguous and dazzling. Her slender and fair arms gently hooked around the man's neck. Yunyan. Wuxia calmly adjusted his emotions, wanting to pull her down. But in the next moment, the little girl hugged him even tighter and sat face to face on his lap. It was also as if she was half kneeling on the sofa and lying on top of him. She looked like the reincarnation of an evil spirit. At this moment, Biyao raised her eyes and looked down at the mole on the man's Adam's apple. She didn't see that the man's dark eyes were rolling with some kind of emotion. The darkness that was half hidden made people blush and their hearts beat faster. Biyao felt that the man didn't move. The corners of her lips curled up slightly and she asked lazily in his ear, Brother, who taught you to coax women like this? The man with clear and noble eyes moved his Adam's apple. His eyes were already dark, and he was restraining some kind of danger that was ready to strike. Yunyan, come down. Wuxia's usual laziness disappeared. His magnetic voice was hoarse and sexy, seductive and deadly, and there was a hint of helplessness in it. P.S. Be good and remember the monthly ticket. Chapter 762. Who knew? As soon as he finished speaking, not only did the beautiful and languid girl not listen to him, she even clamped the man's muscular waist. Her actions spoke louder than words. However, the man's eyes were so dark that they could not be seen clearly due to this little girl's actions. They became even more dangerous, but they made people's legs go weak. It was as if looking into his eyes could make even her cheeks burn. Then, the next moment, just as Wuxia was about to say something, he saw something else from the corner of his eye. The man's gaze changed. He suddenly picked up the person in his arms and turned around. This sudden stand-up made Bai Yunj subconsciously hug Huashidu's neck. Her entire body was almost pressed against his body. Looking from afar, the girl was clamped onto the man's waist, her entire body wrapped around his neck, and the man in a neat suit was holding the side of her buttocks. His usually noble and refined eyebrows were simply abstinent and deadly at this moment. This hug was so hot that it made people's faces burn. It was mixed with a hint of lust, and she could not stop herself. "Brother, you," before Bai Yunj could finish speaking, she suddenly looked at old Madame Hua, who was holding a lunchbox at the door with a shocked expression. Why did she encounter such a scene every time? Just as Bai Yunj was thinking about whether she should greet the old madam, the man who was hugging her had freed up a hand. He pressed her head down helplessly. Bai Yunj buried her head in the man's shoulder. She did not see anything, but she could feel that the man's body seemed to be burning. In this position, Huashidu carried her upstairs. The old madam, who was standing at the door, almost fainted. Last time, Shidu had told her that this was his friend's sister. The little girl was still in her second or third year of high school. Nothing would happen. But what did she see? She saw that the little girl's legs were long and fair. They were hooked behind the man's waist. Any normal man would not be able to control himself. Number 6. How could nothing happen? After going upstairs, Bai Yunj was placed at the corner of the wall. When she looked up, she met the man's bottomless eyes. Her heart inexplicably skipped a beat, and her gaze seemed to be scalded. She turned her face away. When the man saw this, he restrained the gloominess in his eyes and laughed in a low and seductive voice. His voice was lazy and hoarse, and some sort of restrained emotion was almost undetectable. "Stand as punishment, little scourge." After that, the man casually poked her head with his index finger and turned to go downstairs. A few minutes later, another head slowly popped out from the wall. Bai Yunj waved at the old madam from behind the wall and smiled lazily. He didn't look awkward at all. When the old madam saw this, she realized that she was the most awkward person in the room. Huashidu's expression was indifferent. He looked calm and composed without any awkwardness. "Old madam, what brings you here at this time?" However, the man's low and lazy voice still had a trace of itchy hoarseness. "Old madam, how could she be blamed for coming at the wrong time? If you want to mess around, why don't you go to the room? Is the living room fun?" The old madam felt that she was about to lose her mind from anger. She said, "What else can there be? I'm talking to you about the marriage." Huashidu paused and looked up at her. Only then did the old madam realize that she was really delirious. "Your grandfather's business partner is getting married." Chapter 763. Huashidu looked at the old madam and continued to look up unnaturally. In the blink of an eye, he saw the little girl's head popping out and staring at them with her beautiful eyes. Huashidu couldn't help but laugh. His deep voice was filled with an imperceptible indulgence. "Go and dry your hair first." Bai Yunj left after hearing that. After that, the old madam retracted her gaze in a daze. "Shidu, is this little girl really not the reincarnation of a demoness?" She quite liked this little girl, but she was too seductive. Even an old woman like her felt that her grandson couldn't take it. "Don't you think that our Hua family's assets aren't clean?" the man asked casually. The old madam thought for a moment. That's true. Their family was so rich. What was wrong with a little demoness? 10 little demonesses were more than enough. Suddenly, the old madam regained her confidence and continued her noble and cold demeanor. "Although you are young, you should take care of your health. Also, that little demoness is in her 3rd year of high school. Shidu, you are a man. You have to learn to be considerate." The old madam saw that Huashidu's expression did not change and thought that he did not understand. She winked again. "That's right. At least wait until after the college entrance examination. Right?" Huashidu glanced at her slowly. "If there's nothing else, I'll get someone to send you back first." The old madam, did he find her annoying? There's one more thing. At the banquet, the person you don't want to see might also arrive, the old madam added. Why would he come? Huashidu's gaze deepened. Hengda High School. Bai Yunj had just entered the class when she saw the dazzling white color of the sun. Then, she focused and met the eyes of the person at the podium. You. Wasn't this speed too fast? Bai Yunj, why aren't you coming in? Teacher Wen felt a little awkward. A new student had just arrived and there was already a classmate who dropped the ball. She arrived at school on time. Was this the behavior of a good student? Good morning, Teacher Wen. Bai Yunj nodded. After greeting her, she went to her seat and did not give Hiyu a chance to greet her. This made Hiyu put on a fake smile. He actually pretended not to know him. At this moment, one of the boys who had already been talking about him giggled and said, Master Pei, I heard that the new kid has good grades. Isn't that so? This kid was really arrogant in the principal's office. He said that he wants the best teachers because he's here to get first place in the grade. Hearing this, Lu Yuanxi and Chu Zhixing were not very interested. To her surprise, Bai Yunj chuckled leisurely. In your dreams. Chu Zhixing, Lu Yuanxi, was this ancestor's temper getting worse and worse? Master Pei, why? Do you want to get first place? Lu Yuanxi teased. To tell the truth, they hadn't seen Bai Yunj's true level yet. Bai Yunj often missed 1 or 2 exams, and her grades fluctuated. But even if he missed 2 exams, he was still above average, which made people gnash their teeth in anger. I kind of miss it. Bai Yunj smirked and said lazily. In an instant, the people who had been laughing and joking just now fell silent. It wasn't that they didn't believe Bai Yunj. Moreover, they couldn't predict what level this serious student would be at. After all, he could get into the top 3 of the grade even if he missed 1 exam. Lu Yuanxi was silent for a moment. Master Pei, do you want to get into Yun University? What other choice do I have? This rhetorical question made people speechless. Chapter 764. Lu Yuanxi and the rest saw the doubt in Bai Yunj's eyes. She really didn't know what other schools there were besides Yun University. It was too infuriating. At the door, Teacher Wen also pulled Hiyu out to educate him. He smiled lovingly. Hiyu, I know your grades were quite good before you quit school. I hope you can get into a class in the future. Don't worry, I'll definitely get first place in the class. Hiyu was very confident. Oh no, first place in the cohort. Teacher Wen was speechless. Confidence was a good thing. Confidence was a good thing. Ahem, actually, being in the top 3 is also very good. Teacher Wen's tone became gentler. However, you have to dye your hair back. I don't care how good your family's relationship with the school is. In my eyes, students should act like students. This was the first time Hiyu had met such a teacher who looked polite but actually had a bottom line. However, his goal this time was to get first place in the cohort, so he naturally wouldn't argue with the form teacher. Teacher, I understand. Before Hiyu could finish speaking, Teacher Wen suddenly stuffed a few red notes into his mouth. He smiled and said, dye it back at noon. Hiyu. Okay. Seeing that Hiyu wasn't as playful as he had imagined, Teacher Wen's smile became even brighter. He patted Hiyu's shoulder. If there's anything you don't know, ask Bai Yunj and learn from her. With that said, Teacher Wen walked into the class. At this moment, Hiyu felt a little strange. Bai Yunj? This person didn't look like a good student at all. Thinking of this, Hiyu glanced at the exam bulletin board beside him. It was last semester's final exam. After searching for a long time, he finally found Bai Yunj in the 200th place. Hiyu couldn't help but laugh. With this ranking, he still wanted him to learn from Bai Yunj? Okay. He was going to get first place in the cohort. Thinking of this, Hiyu only looked up and fixed his gaze on the first place in the cohort, thinking about how long it would take to surpass this person. Not long after. After class. Immediately, people surrounded them. Master Pei, that newcomer is too arrogant. He actually said he's first place in the cohort. I just overheard that old one told him to work hard to get into the top 3 in the class. He said he wants to get first place in the cohort. Isn't he obviously looking down on you? Ever since she copied Bai Yunja's homework and caused Bai Yunj to be punished, everyone realized that this big boss was not as scary as they thought. After class, she would even come over to Bai Yunj to joke with her. Damn, are you looking down on our Master Pei? That brat is really arrogant. The two boys winked at each other as if they were about to start a crosstalk. However, just as Bai Yunj was about to lie down and sleep and ignore them, Teacher Wen suddenly returned from the door. Bai Yunj, your parents have applied for leave for you. Come here and sign the papers now. Bai Yunj hesitated. Which parent? Master Pei, did something happen to your family? Someone could not help but ask. Bai Yunja's eyelids twitched. I'm not sure. I'll go take a look. She only kept Washidu's contact information. But why did this man suddenly ask for leave for her? Just as Bai Yunj walked into the office with a puzzled expression, she looked up and noticed the parent contact number. It was a phone number. Bai Yunj had always had a photographic memory and recognized this number at a glance. Country A's Academy of Science. Bai Yunj, when was this added? What were these people doing? Bai Yunj looked up and asked, where did this call come from? Chapter 765. It should have been changed by the principal last time. Teacher Wen said without thinking. He did not find this number awkward at all. Bai Yunj was speechless. After Bai Yunj signed the form, Teacher Wen instructed, you can leave with the leave slip. However, in the next second, another phone rang. Teacher Wen glanced at it and answered the call. His eyes landed on Bai Yunj. Bai Yunj also looked at Teacher Wen, feeling that this call might be about her. However, a minute later, Teacher Wen hung up the call and was silent for a moment. This is also from your parents. They've applied for half a month's leave for you. Bai Yunja's eyebrows moved before she looked up and glanced at this phone number. This was Bai Mingzhang's private phone number. After Bai Yunj regained her senses, she nodded. I got it. Teacher Wen's expression was also complicated. This child had just entered her 3rd year of high school. Why were her parents asking for leave one by one? Weren't they afraid that she would fall behind in her studies? If the principal hadn't specially instructed Teacher Wen not to offend anyone from these 2 numbers when he left these 2 numbers last time, he wouldn't have approved Bai Yunja's leave either. These parents were really irresponsible. Yunj, when you're free, don't forget to revise your homework. Teacher Wen reminded her. Bai Yunj nodded. Don't worry, Teacher Wen. Teacher Wen sighed and waved at Bai Yunj, asking her to leave. She was a good seedling, but she had to meet such a mischievous parent. She actually applied for such a long leave for Bai Yunj during such a tense period in her 3rd year of high school. It was a waste of Bai Yunja's talent. Teacher Wen was infuriated. At the door, Bai Yunj received a call from Bai Mingzhang, asking her to go to the Academy of Sciences now. Half an hour later. Audiobook Alliance 52 Minhua Road, Country A's Academy of Sciences. Bai Yunj had just walked to the door when she was stopped and had no choice but to call Bai Mingzhang. However, she never thought that the person who came to pick her up would be Zhong Xinglin. Yunj, come in. When the security guards at the door saw that it was Mr. Zhong Xinglin who came out personally to welcome them, they couldn't help but be stunned. Who was this little girl? After making a phone call, it was actually Mr. Zhong Xinglin who came to pick him up. I'm sorry, Mississippi. It's my duty. After the security guard let him in, he immediately said. Thank you. Bai Yunja's lips curled up. After thanking him, she walked over to Zhong Xinglin's side. Old master, why are you here? Bei Yunj raised his eyebrows. It's all because of you. Zhong Xinglin's eyes were full of resentment, but there was also excitement in them. From time to time, the corners of his mouth would curl up. Bei Yunj, me? You'll know when we get in. After Zhong Xinglin finished speaking, he started to scold Bai Mingzhang angrily. What did Bai Mingzhang mean by this? He didn't even give you an identity card and let you be stopped outside. Hearing this, Bei Yunj finally remembered that Bai Mingzhang had asked her if she wanted to enter Country A's Academy of Sciences. She was busy at that time, so she said that she would listen to his arrangements. She had forgotten that she had already entered the research institute. I don't come here often either. Bei Yunj didn't care too much. However, the moment Zhong Xinglin opened the door, he started to question Bai Mingzhang again. Bai, what do you mean? You don't even give my gu an employee pass? With that said, everyone's eyes were fixed on Bei Yunj and they were shocked for a long time. What was this? She looked like she was only in her 20s. P.S. Babies, remember the monthly ticket. There are still 2 chapters left. Chapter 766. Gu-er's identity card is different. It will be a little later. Bai Mingzhang's eyelids twitched as he immediately explained. After all, her identity was a secret. And the higher-ups also hoped to keep her identity a secret before Bei Yunj was fully fledged. This way, they could better protect Bei Yunj's personal safety. Therefore, even the people who came to the meeting today had signed a confidentiality agreement. They could not reveal anything about her. Yunj, what have you been busy with recently? Bai Mingzhang asked with a smile. Bei Yunj glanced at him slowly. I'm busy with the college entrance examination. All of a sudden, the atmosphere fell into a strange silence. College entrance examination. It was a long time ago. They thought that she was young, about 30 to 40 years old, so they signed the confidentiality agreement excitedly, wanting to see the new generation of scientific research geniuses in person. But they did not expect, she had not taken the college entrance examination yet. She was even prettier than those big celebrities on television. So, why did you call me here today? After Bei Yunj sat down, she looked up at them. It's like this. Zhou Moping took a deep breath and said, the organizer of this year's Ferris Prize said that they hope you can attend the award ceremony. Actually, everyone knew what was going on. This person had solved 2 of the most difficult questions in one go. There was no suspense at all about the winner of this year's Ferris Mathematics Prize. At the same time, the people present were suppressing their excitement. Their country had been suppressed for too long in terms of academic and scientific research. For decades, there had only been one winner of the Ferris Mathematics Prize in Country A. The overwhelming nomination this time had indeed brought shame to the scientific research community of Country A. Even their friends and teachers overseas called to inquire about her and expressed their admiration for her. However, the higher-ups requested for the news to be sealed, so no one dared to reveal it. No, I'm not free. Bei Yunj's voice interrupted everyone's excitement. Everyone turned to look at her. Wasn't she excited at all about this highest honor award? Didn't they say that young people at this age were more or less vain? Why? Zhou Moping asked the question everyone present wanted to ask. Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows. In her past life, Meng Liang was the one who accompanied her when she received the award for the first time. At that time, she was a little happy. However, after receiving so many awards, Bei Yunj was no longer in the mood to prepare an acceptance speech to receive an award. I want to focus on the project. After Bei Yunj finished speaking, only Si Qingyan casually exposed him. Master Pei, listen to me. The money won't run away. After the old capitalists are squeezed dry, they can still be replaced with a new batch of squeezers. When everyone heard this, they suddenly remembered the 2 projects in Bei Yunj. Each one was more expensive than the other. It was simply a sky-high patent fee. No wonder others were so focused on their projects. With such an expensive patent fee, they were willing to stay in the research lab all day long. Bei Yunj glanced at Si Qingyan. Yunj, don't worry. The higher-ups have already gotten someone to sign a confidentiality agreement with the law prize. Your identity won't be exposed. Bai Mingzhang also persuaded her, you'll just go once. It can be considered a tour, okay? Their mission this time was to persuade Bei Yunj to attend the award ceremony. After all, it had been a long time since their countrymen had won this award. This was a chance for them to hold their heads high. Chapter 767. Bei Yunj also frowned. I'm not interested in country R. As soon as she said this, everyone present felt inexplicably happy. They really wanted to record this for those people in country R who looked down their noses and really thought that their country's researchers had no temper. At the same time, Zhong Xinglin also had an inexplicable feeling that if Bei Yunj went to participate in the Ferris Prize, something might happen. When this ancestor's temper flared up, she was even more unreasonable than those people in country R. Bei Yunj said slowly, and there's an exam tomorrow. I want to go back to school for the exam. She thought for a moment and added, it's very important to be first in the level. Everyone was speechless. This was the first time they had seen someone give up the Ferris Prize just to be first in the level. They really didn't understand why she was so obsessed with high school life. Who present didn't skip a grade to go to university and directly study for their masters and doctorates? All of a sudden, Bai Mingzhang said, when your grandma received the biology award, there was an old math guy who humiliated her on the podium. Zhou Moping, Zhong Xinglin and the rest were speechless. Bai Mingzhang actually remembered such a long time ago. After that, didn't he punch that old guy backstage? Why was he still mentioning this? Wasn't he too vengeful? He and his son will also be going to the Ferris Prize this year, Bai Mingzhang said with a kind smile. Subsequently, just as everyone was confused, Bei Yunj looked up at Bai Mingzhang and asked unhurriedly, when is the award ceremony? Everyone was speechless. Was there such a thing? Bai Mingzhang smiled very brightly. 12 days later. We'll go a week earlier. Okay. Bei Yunj hummed in response. Immediately after, just as everyone couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief, they heard this person ask slowly, what's that person's name? Everyone was speechless. All right. He was going to cause trouble. However, Bai Mingzhang wasn't afraid of causing trouble at all. He directly searched for that person's information and placed it in front of Bei Yunj. Everyone was very disgusted by Bai Mingzhang's act of taking revenge for a private grudge. The next day, what Mr. Wen didn't expect was that Bei Yunj actually ran back to school for the exam. This moved Teacher Wen greatly. In the afternoon, after the exam, He felt that the exam this time wasn't difficult. It was more than enough to get into the top 3 of the grade. Who knew that at this moment? He suddenly heard the discussion in the corridor. Guess who got first place this time? A girl couldn't help but discuss with her companions. Gua Moran. The other girl thought for a moment and added, but Leia also has a chance. The physics question this time is very difficult, but it definitely won't be difficult for her. And the foreign language she was the worst at. It said that Leia lived abroad for the entire summer vacation. She even brought a local teacher to make up for her foreign language. After saying that, the girl couldn't help but sigh. This was probably the life of the rich. Her foreign language was not good, so she went to country R for the summer vacation. Next. Just as he finished listening and was about to leave, a round-faced girl with neat bangs looked excited. No, I think it's Bei Yunj. I'm in the same exam room as her. These words made He turn her head abruptly and look at the round-faced girl in disbelief. Bei Yunj? Is she first? The other 2 girls looked at each other uncertainly. After all, she often skips exams. They couldn't figure out her level. Chapter 768. Yes. It must be her. The round-faced girl said excitedly, I saw her answer all the questions. Upon hearing this, Yu chuckled and left with his glass of water. He thought that Bei Yunj was very good. Some people guessed that she was the top student in the cohort. In the end, she only answered all the questions. Could it be that she answered all the questions correctly? At the thought of this, Yu wondered if the students of Hengda had become stupid. After Yu left in disdain, the three girls were still discussing. She answered all the questions? The other girl was shocked. Every question? Yes, I saw that Bei Yunj was the only one who answered all the questions. The round-faced girl couldn't contain her excitement. When the other two girls heard this, they looked at each other. They had a feeling that the ranking of the cohort was going to be a battle between the gods. Guamaran's results had always been good. No one could shake her position in the cohort. However, that was in the past. In the past, Bei Yunj would miss at least one or two questions. However, this time, for some reason, Bei Yunj suddenly became serious. It was really hard to predict who would come in first this time, Class 7. Seeing that everyone looked unhappy while the new student was beaming, someone couldn't help but ask. Yu, how did you do? Yu was confident but said modestly, I might be able to get into the top 10. Although Yu had taken a break from school for a long time, he had finished his second year of high school and hadn't forgotten much of his homework. Yu was a typical smart person. Yu had always been aware of his advantages. That's quite good. After the boy finished asking, he didn't have the courage to ask any more questions. He turned and left silently. Meanwhile, Yu sat in his seat and continued to study the questions that he hadn't finished. At this moment, the classroom was also filled with a lifeless atmosphere. Not long after, when Bei Yunj appeared at the door of the classroom with a straw and her yogurt, the eyes of half the class lit up. Audiobook bookstore. Master Pei, have you answered the mathematics paper? Someone asked immediately. Bei Yunj nodded. Yes. With that, Bei Yunj placed the answers she had scribbled on the test paper on the table. When the others saw this, they immediately rushed forward to take the test papers. They scrambled to see Bei Yunj's answer. But this scene fell into Yu's eyes. Yu almost suspected that these people were bewitched. Using Bei Yunj's test paper as the standard answer? After a while, Yu coughed lightly. I've already written my answer on the exam paper. His voice was neither soft nor loud, causing everyone to turn around. But a few seconds later, everyone turned their heads again and focused on snatching Bei Yunj's test papers. Yu, this group of idiots, they still don't know who the real genius is, right? Hee. Yu lowered her head angrily and continued to solve the questions. Bei Yunj was already sitting in his seat, aimlessly playing with the maps of the gods. Master Pei, I heard that the math test this time is very difficult. No one in our examination hall was able to answer the last question, Chu Zhixing said. As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Yuanci couldn't help but look at Bei Yunj, waiting for her answer. Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows. Is that so? I didn't pay much attention. Lu Yuanci, Chu Zhixing, so, what was this person's true standard? Master Pei, what do you think you'll get? Chu Zhixing would always ask this question excitedly. Bei Yunj didn't even look up. First place. Chapter 769. If someone else had said this, they would probably think that this person was too arrogant. But when the other party was Bei Yunj, only one thought appeared in their minds. Bei Yunj was starting to act like a human again. Lu Yuanci was silent for a moment, then turned around to do his questions without saying a word. After all, among the three of them, his results were the most difficult to explain. But in fact, Lu Yuanci had improved very quickly, especially in mathematics and physics. He had already reached the average level. Oh right, I'll start taking leave tomorrow. It'll be more than half a month. Bei Yunj remembered and said casually. Half a month? You're going on vacation in your third year of high school? Lu Yuanci's eyelids twitched. Baiyang curled his lips and said slowly, "Work and rest. No need. When the time comes, help me take a photo. I'll just hand it in." Baiyang's lips curled up. "Thank you in advance." Lu Yuanxi's lips twitched, but Chu Zhixing said without hesitation, "No problem." Chu Zhixing and Chu Zhixing were speechless. Then, Lu Yuanxi asked again, "Then when the results of the entrance exam are out, do you want to come back and take a look?" Yin University. In the office. Baiyang sat on the sofa and brought Si Qingyan upstairs. These few days. Baiyang was not idle either, but she was also conflicted about what reason she should find to ask her brother for leave to go abroad. "K, shouldn't we consider it carefully?" Baiyang almost forgot about the K-assists. Her eyebrows moved, and she looked up and asked, "Brother Yan, lend me your computer." Not long after, she saw a message from a familiar number. "K, Max? K, I didn't get blocked by you, right?" One was a hacker organization, and the other was an intelligence agency. It looked quite formal and was not a pyramid scheme. Baiyang looked down and saw the founder of the K-assists promoting his organization like a pyramid scheme. Her eyelids twitched. Okay. Si Qingyan's situation was intense and he had no time to care about Baiyang. Baiyang did not say anything. She sat in front of the computer and started to check the information about the K-assists and CI7. Agreed. She agreed. She's finally here. Lying on the sofa, K rubbed his forehead and heaved a sigh of relief. His months of hard work had not been in vain. "Sure, I'll join." After she sent it out, in a certain office overseas. When K saw this message, he almost burst into tears. Yes. K smiled as if he had just been injected with chicken blood. He picked up the phone excitedly and contacted CI7. The higher-ups of CI7 were also very surprised after receiving a call from the founder of Chaos. K and Max agreed? The woman beside him was surprised too. She had seen with her own eyes how much Max disliked the K-assists. He was not even interested in CI7. But to his surprise, Max actually agreed. CI7. You know about CI7 too? Si Qingyan instinctively looked at Baiyang. What happened? They didn't expect that K would recommend a newcomer to the organization. After Si Qingyan played the game, he saw that Baiyang's browsing interface was not closed and happened to catch a glimpse of the entry. Baiyang asked. The largest spy agency set up in this continent. From small individuals to large countries, we have comprehensive information on all aspects. Si Qingyan clicked his tongue. But CI7 is very mysterious. No member has been exposed so far. We only know that the founder is called Yuxiu. Then, Si Qingyan turned around sneakily and said, I heard that person looks very scary. P.S. Be good and remember the monthly ticket. Chapter 770. Baiyang slowly glanced at Si Qingyan and looked away. She did not seem interested at all. Si Qingyan was speechless. This guy really never gave him face. 10 minutes later. Si Qingyan's takeout had just arrived. The two of them sat in the office and opened a bottle of beer each. Just as they were about to relax, someone suddenly barged in. He was burning with rage. Damn it. I've never seen such a group of students who are so difficult to control and bold. Hearing this, the two of them turned to look at the same time. The three of them stared at each other. The atmosphere was silent and strange. Bai Mingzhang's eyelids twitched. When he saw the braised food and beer on the table, he almost fainted. There was really someone even bolder. Bai Mingzhang's anger reached its peak. Si Qingyan. You brought gu here to drink? Where was this? This was the office of Yunqing University. He asked Si Qingyan to keep an eye on Baiyang and not let anything happen to her before the award ceremony. However, Si Qingyan actually drank with a high school student? This was even worse than those brats from the junior class. No, Master Pei can hold her liquor very well. Si Qingyan explained, last time, she drank half of us in the computing institute alone. Bai Mingzhang rushed over and slapped the back of Si Qingyan's head without any reason. If I catch you leading Gu astray again, I'll teach you a lesson. Si Qingyan was speechless. Ever since Bai Yunj entered the institute, he started to take the blame everywhere. Bai Yunj said that she was hungry, so he secretly ordered it. Free Chinese in the end, Bai Mingzhang only dealt with him. This was great. In the past, old Master Zhong scolded him for no reason. Now, even old Master Bai was doing it. After Bai Yunj put down the wine bottle, she changed the topic calmly. Grandpa Bai, what happened? Why are you so angry? It's all because of those brats from the junior class. They actually went to a high-class clubhouse to have fun. This news almost couldn't be suppressed. Bai Mingzhang gritted his teeth in anger. This was the third batch of Yun University's junior class. However, each batch was more troublesome than the last. It was only a matter of time before Yun University's junior class was cancelled. There's nothing we can do about it. Those kids in the junior class are so arrogant that they won't listen to us. Si Qingyan smiled seriously as he drank. The junior class was famous for being unruly. After all, they hadn't passed puberty yet, and each and every one of them was a genius. It was normal for him to look down on teachers who were dumber than him. This was especially true for the junior class students that Yun University had recently recruited. Each one of them was more resourceful than the other. Two of them were slightly older and had already obtained academician qualifications. He sure knows how to have fun. Bai Yunj chuckled and slowly picked up some vegetables with her chopsticks. Bai Yunj was well aware of the fact that the students in the junior class refused to obey her management in her previous life. However, compared to Bai Yunj's time in the junior class, Yun University's junior class was indeed more playful. In her previous life, all the teachers who had taught Bai Yunj since elementary school were either her mother, Meng Liang's colleagues or Meng Liang's students. In fact, Meng Liang did not intend to let Bai Yunj enter the junior class at first. She was afraid that she would delay Bai Yunj's learning progress. However, it was Meng Liang's best friend's turn to be the form teacher of the junior class. After Meng Liang's best friend taught the junior class for half a year, she really couldn't stand the bad temper of the junior class. Hence, she chased after Meng Liang for half a year and asked Bai Yunj to transfer into the class. As expected. After Bai Yunj entered the school, the originally impetuous and arrogant atmosphere of the junior class changed rapidly. Chapter 771. And the name Bai Yunj had become a shadow in the lives of everyone in the junior class. This person was their first Waterloo in life. All along, they had crushed their peers and even their teachers. They thought that they had outstanding IQ and were true geniuses. However, who would have thought that a 14-year-old girl who had just transferred would crush everyone's IQ in a week? It even made everyone wonder if they were geniuses. Could it be that they had been immersed in their misconceptions for the past 10 years? After receiving a blow, in order to catch up with Bai Yunj, everyone in the class studied at night and chased after Bai Yunj. However, when they graduated, Bai Yunj received the highest honor in the mathematics world. Meanwhile, they struggled to get first place in the international youth competition under the age of 20. The school was very satisfied with the results of the junior class. However, the junior class students who had graduated from that year were deeply aware of the difference in talent, hence, they were forced to end their adolescence early and silently start to do scientific research. These brats don't even know how much resources the country has spent on them. Bai Mingzhang was furious. He sat beside Si Qingyan and gulped down half a can of wine. That's right. I heard that a girl in this year's junior class changed her nationality. Si Qingyan asked. When Bai Mingzhang heard this, he was silent for a long time before drinking his wine. Si Qingyan sighed. People always have to choose the best. No wonder she. Bai Mingzhang looked up. Do you know how much money the school spent to give her the best resources? 5 million. That's all our country's taxpayers' money. Did they pick it up for free? Bai Mingzhang was one of the first batch of overseas returnees to build the country and had seen war. He chuckled. That girl is especially talented in machinery manufacturing. The school has long been prepared to focus on grooming her. What about her? Did she change her nationality with the project? If there's King war in the future, it might be my student who built the machinery and killed me? Si Qingyan did not speak, but Bai Mingzhang was sulking. It was not because of anything else, but because this student was his favorite student that he had painstakingly taught. The outside world remained neutral on the matter of the girl changing her nationality, believing that it was a personal choice. But he couldn't do it. When he came back to teach, wasn't it to nurture talents for the country? But what was the result? This person even ran out and gave it to someone else for free? The foreign media were the best at picking the right words to say. Science has no borders. If there were no borders, would their country spend so much money and subsidies to lobby researchers to immigrate? Have some chicken feet to cool down. Si Qingyan thoughtfully handed a chicken claw to Bai Mingzhang. Bai Mingzhang, what are you angry about? Look at us. Aren't we still sitting in Yin University's office eating chicken feet? Si Qingyan said with a smile. Pei Qian paused. When Bai Mingzhang heard this, his complexion improved a little. Indeed. This time, even the foreign media, who had always been there to watch the show, were a little anxious. The person who was nominated for both the Busaka and Farizik prizes had actually returned to A from our nation's computing institute to develop. Wasn't this the same as sending the treasure back to their doorstep? How could they be willing to accept this? However, no one had appeared so far. Even the contact method had to be through Marcus or the Computing Institute. Chapter 772. Country A's current confidentiality measures were so strict that it made one's hair stand on end. It was unrealistic to dig her out of country A. Sensing Bai Mingzhang's kind and touched gaze, Bai Yunji's eyelids twitched. She decided to leave the office and go out for some peace and quiet. But she did not expect, at this moment. Si Qingyan gave Bai Mingzhang an idea. Elder Bai, I'll give you an idea, the catfish effect. Catfish effect? Bai Mingzhang was stunned. Si Qingyan immediately smiled. Yes, the catfish effect. If you want the little fish to have the ability to survive, why don't you put an active catfish in and make them nervous? Make them nervous. During this period of time, she had been finding trouble with him. It was time for this brat to experience the survival environment of the junior class. That's right. How could I have forgotten about her? Bai Mingzhang was puzzled. Where can I find someone who can make them nervous? Do you still need to find someone? Isn't there someone in the computer science department? Si Qingyan hinted desperately. Okay. Tell Gu, well later. Anyway, she has nothing to do during this period of time. It's not a problem for her to listen in on the junior class. After Bai Mingzhang finished speaking, the smile on Si Qingyan's face froze. Bai Yunj? Bai Mingzhang was excited. Seeing this, Si Qingyan's smile widened. He raised his glass to Bai Mingzhang. Come. Let's have a drink. Wait for me too. This was clearly a great white shark seedling. Only then did Si Qingyan realize that Bai Mingzhang was also bold. Yes. Bai Mingzhang did not think there was a problem. Si Qingyan's eyelids twitched. Do you think you're looking for a catfish? Si Qingyan was speechless. Sure, he had become a negative example again. This way, we can prevent someone from leading our Gu astray, Bai Mingzhang said with a smile. Ever since Director Lin personally cooked a meal for Bai Mingzhang had already treated himself as Bai Yunji's future grandfather. At this moment, Bai Yunj, who had just returned, also had a subtle premonition when he sensed Bai Mingzhang and Si Qingyan's gazes. When Bai Yunj was not around, Elder Zhong and Elder Bai still had a place in their hearts. Now, no matter where he went, he was despised. Bai Yunj was silent for a moment. Do you think I look like a student of the junior class at my age? She was already 19. The next moment, Bai Mingzhang smiled. Gu, you must be bored in the office all the time. Why don't we go to the junior class together? Bai Mingzhang nodded in agreement. If it wasn't for the fact that he had to repeat a year, he would be a freshman now. That's true. Before Bai Mingzhang entered the classroom, he heard the commotion inside. It wasn't until he entered the classroom that everyone quieted down. On the podium, the anger on the homeroom teacher's face had yet to subside. Until the afternoon. Junior class. Bai Mingzhang smiled. Little Ho, I've sent someone over to listen in. Hearing this, curiosity and disdain appeared in the eyes of the youths below the stage. Elder Bai, you, the homeroom teacher was stunned. Teacher Ho asked. Bai Mingzhang denied, oh no, it's a teaching assistant. Who could study in the same classroom as them? Could she be a genius too? An auditing student? Then, Bai Mingzhang turned to look outside. Gu, come in. With that said, everyone saw a girl with a bad expression walk in from the door, but she was too beautiful. Chapter 773. This new girl was even prettier than the prettiest girl in the art school next door. She's so young. Teacher Ho hesitated for a moment. Which school did she graduate from? She hasn't graduated yet. She's still in high school. Bai Mingzhang smiled. Teacher Ho? You put a student who hasn't graduated from high school in the junior class. And she's a teaching assistant? Teacher Ho's confusion was written all over his face. The people below the stage were also unhappy, but they didn't dare to say it in front of Bai Mingzhang. Then, introduce yourself. Teaching assistant? Teacher Ho asked tentatively. Bai Yunj, not long after. Bai Yunj casually glanced at the people below the stage. My name is Bai Yunj. As soon as she finished speaking, the class was silent. Teacher Ho and Bai Mingzhang were also waiting for Bai Yunj to say something. But in the blink of an eye, they realized that Bai Yunj was looking at them. Teacher Ho, good lord, it was already over. Gu, find a seat. After class, I'll take you to Grandpa Tian's house next door for a meal. Take a good rest. Bai Mingzhang patted Bai Yunj's shoulder. Teacher Ho was sure that the old Tian that old Bai was talking about was Dean Tian Hejing from Yunonglin next door. Who exactly was this girl? She was so close to old Bai. When the others saw this, they immediately came to a conclusion. This person was old Bai's relative or a relative of a friend. She came to their class through connections. I've seen people who rely on connections to come to our class, but this is the first time I've seen someone rely on connections to come to our class as a teaching assistant. Her background is really strong. Immediately, someone mocked. However, his voice wasn't loud, and only a few students in the back row heard it. However, unexpectedly, the unbelievably good-looking girl in front also glanced at him leisurely. She sneered in a neither light nor heavy manner. Nwansai Literature Network. Everyone in the class heard it very clearly. A person who came in through the back door dared to look down on them. Suddenly, someone asked loudly, she's still in high school at the age of 19. What can she teach us? This made Teacher Ho's face stiffen, afraid that Bai Mingzhang would be angry. Unexpectedly, Bai Mingzhang paused and turned to look at Bai Yunj. That's right, Gu, Why are you still in high school? My grades weren't good, so I had to repeat a year, Bai Yunj said calmly. Bai Mingzhang? At this moment, Teacher Ho was also shocked by Bai Yunj's honesty. This was the first time Elder Bai had gone through the back door. Why is this little girl so careless? She dares to speak her mind. Similarly, when the students of the junior class heard this, they wanted to mock her, but because of Bai Yunj's calmness, they didn't know what to say. How dare this person say that? Grandpa, bye, I'll go to class first. After Bei Yunj finished speaking, she found a seat and sat down. Bai Mingzhang was like a doting parent. He couldn't help but take a few more glances before leaving. However, the next moment, someone stood up and looked at Bei Yunj provocatively. Teaching assistant Pei, which subject did you do well in? There are already students in our class who have successfully become academicians of the Academy of Sciences. Indeed, the country did its best to nurture these young geniuses. They were willing to open up another path for them. And this gave them the confidence to act arrogantly. My grades in all subjects are okay. Bei Yunj said slowly. These words made Teacher Ho, who was on the stage, a little stiff and awkward. All right, class has started. Don't talk about such nonsense. P.S. We'll continue in the evening. Good boys, remember the monthly votes. Chapter 774. Seeing that Teacher Ho was trying to smooth things over, the others could only bear with it and keep quiet. However, what he did not expect was that Bei Yunj sat by the window and started to use a book to cover the iPad. She started to play recklessly in the drawer. When the students of the junior class saw this, they were even more furious. Although they did not pay much attention in class and even dared to play with their phones in front of the teacher. But that was because they had the ability to do so. What ability did this person have? She got into the junior class through her connections and became a teaching assistant because she was a repeater? Now she dared to play with her iPad in class? Where did she get the courage? Bei Yunj flipped through the literature and pondered about the problem of the project. She did not know what the children in the back row were thinking. But the calm did not last long. Teacher Ho found that this group of brats was absent-minded and even worse than when they did not pay attention in class. One by one, they made noises that disturbed the class. Feng Jiangwen. Teacher Ho roared with an ugly expression. Hearing this, the tall boys stood up reluctantly. Their expressions were sloppy, but their appearances were delicate. Get up. Demonstrate the solution to this question. After saying this, Teacher Ho threw the chalk on the table and walked to the side. Ever since these students had caused a ruckus and went to the high-class club, Teacher Ho had decided to teach these arrogant brats a lesson. After such a terrible thing happened, none of these brats repented. Even when they came to school the next day, each one was more arrogant than the other. When the students in the audience saw the question on the slide, they knew that Teacher Ho was going to give them a difficult problem. Feng Jiangwen originally laughed. He glanced at the question and was about to answer it, but the smile on his face gradually stiffened and his legs felt heavy. He could not move. This question, it was not a question that they usually solved. God of Dance e-book at this moment. Bei Yunj glanced at it and paused. This question looked inexplicably familiar. If you can't solve this question, you are not allowed to leave class. Teacher Ho said leisurely, you are all students with high IQ. If you can't even solve this kind of question, how can you leave class? After saying this, he glanced at everyone in the classroom and saw that their expressions were not very good. Teacher Ho was amused. This group of brats caused so much trouble every day, thinking that the world revolved around them. If he didn't let them experience the true pinnacle of the scientific research field, they would really think that they could become gods just by solving a question. Questions like, were more useful. He specialized in dealing with this group of rebellious and proud genius students. Mr. Ho was very happy. Bei Yunj, on the other hand, could not help but raise her eyebrows. She glanced at the students behind her with a strange look. She remembered that even Song Yao could stumble and write more than half of such similar questions. After all, in order to let Song Yao be chosen by Zhou Moping and enter his research institute, she had spent a lot of time developing Song Yao's thinking ability. At this very moment, in the eyes of these students, Bei Yunj's gaze was mocking and insulting them. No matter how bad they were, it wasn't her place to look at them like that, as someone who got in through the back door. Was she worthy of mocking them with such a gaze? I can't solve this problem, but I want to know if our class's teaching assistant can help us. Feng Jiangwen was about to ask Bei Yunj to stand up and embarrass herself when Bei Yunj interrupted him and rejected him slowly. Can the teaching assistant help you get an award in the future? P.S. On the highway, I'll make up for the missing updates tomorrow. Sorry. Chapter 775. These words made the faces of the students turn green and red. How could this person have the courage to say such words? What award had she won that she dared to mock them like this? It seems that our teaching assistant has a powerful background, Feng Jiangwen said sarcastically. Quiet. Teacher Ho immediately stopped the matter from escalating and said in a low voice. However, when the people in the class saw Teacher Ho defending Bei Yunj, they felt even more uncomfortable. Indeed. Their academic circle relied on connections. It was no wonder that Lin Mo left and chose to emigrate to Country R. In Country R, Bei Yunj, who entered through the back door and had no ability, would be despised by everyone. Who would treat someone without ability as a teacher? Someone said sarcastically. This person seemed to have really come through the back door. However, when Teacher Ho heard this, he could not flare up. After all, when Teacher Ho heard this, he turned around and saw Jian Shi from the computer science department. In Yin University, everyone knew Jian Shi. Just as everyone was sizing up Bei Yunj with sarcastic expressions, a voice suddenly sounded from the door. Teacher Ho, isn't your class dismissed yet? I heard that Principal Bai poached my teacher to be your teaching assistant. Jian Shi raised her eyebrows and glanced at all the students arrogantly, but she was inexplicably cute. Jian Shi? Your friend is here. Teacher Ho rarely saw Jian Shi being close to anyone. Bei Yunj was Jian Shi's teacher. Was this a joke? Your teacher. Teacher Ho was stunned for a moment before he looked at Bei Yunj. Aren't you in class? Bei Yunj asked. But I want my teacher to teach me. Jian Shi was also famous for not obeying management. However, she was much more low-key than the students in the junior class, so she did not cause any trouble. In the entire school, Jian Shi could not find a professor who was willing to teach her. Bei Yunj was speechless. So, she came here this time to declare her sovereignty? Jian Shi's fair and tender face was rosy and her eyes were bright. She naturally acted coquettishly towards Bei Yunj. It was obvious that she liked Bei Yunj very much. Jian Shi, this was Yin University's famous grade-skipping demon. Looking at Jian Shi's wary and sneering expression, Teacher Ho also felt puzzled as she scanned everyone present. Wasn't Bei Yunj just a high school repeater? However, there were also people who were unconvinced. He was just a computer science student. What was so great about him? How could he be Jian Shi's teacher? When the other students saw that it was Jian Shi, they fell silent. After all, Jian Shi's ability was obvious to everyone. This, Mr. Ho was in a dilemma. At this time, Feng Jiangwen suddenly said, if we can't solve the questions on the slides, we can't leave the class. This is what Mr. Ho said. Teacher Ho, can you lend me your teaching assistant? I have so many things to ask her. Jian Shi looked at Teacher Ho pitifully. But halfway through his words, his voice abruptly stopped. Jian Shi glanced at Bei Yunj bitterly. Teacher Ho had an awkward expression. On the other hand, Jian Shi glanced at the questions on the slide suspiciously. The more she looked at them, the more familiar they looked. She subconsciously muttered to herself, isn't this the type of question that my master sure had come up with? Jian Shi's heart was filled with jealousy as she muttered. Old Bai is wasting too many resources now. Just this? With this standard, she was willing to be a teaching assistant? To be a teaching assistant for the junior class. He was really something. P.S. I'm making up for it. Be obedient and remember the monthly votes. I'll add more chapters for the 9th place. There are still 6 chapters left. I'll add 2 more chapters for the 9th place. Chapter 776. Jianxi also knew that the junior class had gone to a high-class clubhouse. She had always been a bystander when it came to such matters. However, Jianxi felt even more indignant now that such a person who did not do her job properly could be their teaching assistant. Wasn't this a waste of her teacher's time? At this very moment, seeing that Jianxi was furious but did not dare to say anything, Teacher Ho could not help but glance at Bai Yunj. Who exactly was this person? If she was really not capable, why would Jianxi protect her? Student Jianxi, I know that you are indeed good at computing, but our class is not your computer science department. If you can't solve the question on stage, why don't you stop us from solving the question? Someone immediately said in a sarcastic tone. That's right. What's so great about being the first in the computer science department? Do you really think that you are very capable? Hearing that, Bai Yunja's gaze turned cold as he glanced at the person who had just spoken. This made the person who had just spoken feel a chill down his spine. He instinctively did not dare to look into Bai Yunja's eyes. Jianxi's lips curled up when she heard that. If I solve it, will teaching assistant pay be mine? Before Teacher Ho could speak, he saw Jianxi holding a piece of chalk and starting to solve the question. At this moment, Teacher Ho realized that Jianxi's mathematics seemed to be much scarier than before. In the past, Jianxi's mathematics ability was not weak and was amazing. However, it was not as scary as now. This was a question of, was Jianxi doing the question of, as if it was a basic question? At this very moment, Bai Yunj sat below the stage and saw that Jianxi's solution was much clearer than before. He could not help but raise his eyebrows lazily. About 3 minutes. Jianxi was about to solve the entire question. Teacher Ho could not help but be stunned when he saw Jianxi's solution. The process of solving this problem was even more clear than his own. Jianxi, your math. Xiandu Chinese website. Teacher Ho even suspected that Jianxi had applied for the wrong major back then. Her mathematics was not inferior to computer science at all. The people below the stage froze bit by bit as they watched, feeling like they were losing face. Wasn't Jianxi from the computer science department? How could she solve such a math problem? From the looks of it, he was able to solve it with ease. Jianxi's cheating behavior was undoubtedly a slap to the junior class's face. Everyone's faces were ashen, but they didn't know what to say. After solving the problem, Jianxi placed the chalk on the table and asked with a smile, Teacher Ho, can I go out with my teacher pay? Ho Laosher took a long time to react before replying. Class dismissed. However, as soon as he finished speaking, the junior class was no longer as noisy as it used to be. Instead, it was dead silent. There was no sound at all. The talent that they were so proud of was now being trampled to pieces. Jianxi did not look at them. She just blinked and looked at Bai Yunj. Bai Yunj stood up and asked with a smile, what do you want to eat? Anything is fine. Jianxi immediately went up and held Bai Yunj's shoulder, chattering with Bai Yunj. They could tell that Jianxi liked this teaching assistant who had gotten in through the back door. A short while later, Bai Yunj went to the washroom first while Jianxi came back to help Bai Yunj carry her things. Jianxi hugged Bai Yunj's iPad and glanced at them with a smile. However, the words she said were completely different from her attitude in front of Bai Yunj just now. Are you qualified for her to teach you? Chapter 777. Teacher Ho looked at Jianxi's sudden change in attitude. Question mark. Wasn't he still here? The people in the junior class also choked until their faces turned red. What right did a backdoor assistant have to say that they were not qualified for her to teach them? I really have to hand it to old Bai. He treats my teacher as cheap labor. Jianxi had an exquisite appearance, but her eyes were cold. She rarely spoke in such a sarcastic tone. Your talent is actually just a so-so. Isn't it? Instantly, the atmosphere became even colder. This was the first time Teacher Ho had heard someone mock the students of the junior class. But this person was Jianxi, the ace student of Yun University. Teacher Ho, I'll go back first. Jianxi carried Bei Yunja's iPad and straightened her back as she left. The faces of everyone present turned ugly. At this moment, Teacher Ho was also surprised to see the junior class suffer in front of Jianxi. But then, Teacher Ho smiled and said, Jianxi is the ace student of Yunqing University. She skipped a grade. However, Jianxi had already entered the research institute when she was in her first year of high school. She spent more time on computers. These words were like slaps to their faces. Jianxi spent more time on computers, but in the end, her mathematics was still better than theirs. When you used the talent you were proud of to look down on others, you should have thought that someone would look down on you because of this. Teacher Ho said indifferently. After Teacher Ho left, Feng Jiangwen's expression was ugly. He could not help but kick the table over. What's so great about a teaching assistant? Feng Jiangwen was furious. The others were very silent because of Jianxi. Jianxi's slap really hurt them. TXTA computer science student had solved a question that their entire class could not solve. Moreover, why would a person like Jianxi protect this teaching assistant who had gotten in through the back door? At the door, Jianxi pestered Bei Yunj and asked, Teacher, so you'll be at Yun University these few days? Yes, I'll go to our nation next week. Bei Yunj answered and handed the milk tea to Jianxi. For Rizik's award ceremony? When Jianxi heard this, her eyes couldn't help but twinkle. She was so excited that she was about to jump up. Bei Yunj stretched out his hand lazily and pressed down on her head to prevent her from jumping up. Yes, it's just a name. Jianxi, just a name change? There were only 2 people in Country A who had been nominated, and one of them had won an award. And this time, her teacher had solved 2 of the questions, so he would definitely win a prize. Otherwise, the mathematics community would tear this unreliable award apart. This was a question solver of the 1008 questions. Furthermore, he had solved 2 at once. You should try the remaining questions when you're free. Jianxi heard this. Isn't this inappropriate? Ever since Jianxi was pulled into Jasmine and Tich's group, she realized how scary her teacher's students were. Almost all of them had won international awards. As for her, she had never participated in any official international competition. Bei Yunj gently pinched her cheek. Just try. You'll get it done eventually. Jianxi's aptitude was very good and was not inferior to Tich and the rest. Jianxi, who did not dare to refuse, was speechless. Her teacher didn't find anything difficult at all. However, if she wanted to win the Farizic prize, she would need at least 7 to 8 years. Chapter 778. The next day, when Jianxi brought Bei Yunj around the campus, Yu Ling, who was not far away, happened to walk over. Her smile froze. Bei Yunj? Yu Ling asked subconsciously. When Feng Jiangwen heard this, he subconsciously looked at Bei Yunj. His gaze turned cold. Senior Yu, do you know her? Yu Ling regained her usual expression and smiled. We've met a few times, but she doesn't have a good impression of me. It's not her place to point fingers at someone like Senior Yu Ling. Feng Jiangwen's tone was sarcastic. It was obvious that he had a deep prejudice against Bei Yunj. Yu Ling looked at Feng Jiangwen in surprise. During this period of time, Feng Jiangwen had been constantly asking her out. Yu Ling knew that this boy probably wanted to woo her. However, Yu Ling did not like boys younger than her. Moreover, this Feng Jiangwen was too different from Fu Yanbai. Therefore, Yu Ling only maintained her image and occasionally accompanied him out for a walk. Did she get into Yun University? Yu Ling could not help but ask. She remembered that Bei Yunj was only in her 2nd year of high school. When Feng Jiangwen heard this, he sneered. Whether she can get into Yun University or not is still a problem. However, she is now a teaching assistant in our junior class. Teaching assistant? Yu Ling was indeed very surprised. After all, an existence like the junior class was still quite distant to ordinary people. Senior, why do you think a repeater can be a teaching assistant in our class? Feng Jiangwen put his hands in his pockets with a mocking expression. Yu Ling laughed and said instead, Miss Pei's family background is something I can't envy. With a background like mine, I can only rely on myself. Feng Jiangwen immediately said, a girl like Senior Yu Ling is a good girl. He said word by word seriously, I also like Senior Yu Ling very much. Yu Ling hid the surprise in her eyes and joked, really? Thank you, Junior Feng. After that, Yu Ling avoided this topic again. In the afternoon, Bai Yunj had just bid farewell to Jian Shi, who had class in the afternoon. When she walked into the class, she saw a boy holding a book and standing hesitantly by her desk. She raised her eyebrows, and after a moment, her eyes met the boy's. Assistant Instructor Pei, the boy stuttered nervously, I have a question. I want to ask you. Bai Yunj remembered that she was still a teaching assistant. She nodded and drank some mineral water. She tightened the cap and walked to her desk. Take a look. The boy immediately took out the question and showed it to Bai Yunj. The third question. What do you think? Bai Yunj's gaze fell on this page and he casually glanced over it. The direction of the first question is wrong. Check the conversion of the second question again. The general idea of the third question is like this. Bai Yunj pulled out a piece of paper and a pen from the drawer with one hand and wrote down a few more steps. After the boy heard this, he was completely stunned. Assistant Instructor Pei, this, the boy scratched his head awkwardly. Bai Yunj paused for a moment before realizing that he did not understand. The boy lowered his head and did not dare to look at Bai Yunj. I'm sorry, Assistant Instructor. I've always been at the bottom of the class. I don't have any talent. At most, I'm just a stepping stone for them. They are real gold. Bai Yunj glanced at him and thought for a while before putting down the mineral water. She changed her way of solving the question and wrote down the complete steps again to explain the question to him. However, probably because he was nervous, the boy only understood it on the third try. Chapter 779. I'm sorry, Assistant Pei. I don't think I'm very smart. After the boy finished speaking, he lowered his head in embarrassment. Bai Yunj sat back in her seat and stopped drinking water. The two of them looked at each other. The boy was instantly embarrassed. Bai Yunj thought for a moment before she consoled him. It's okay. There aren't many smart people in your class. The boy was speechless. This was a very special way of consoling him. However, the boy still felt that Bai Yunj was deliberately saying this because she disliked the students in the junior class. He didn't think that even Teacher Ho would need some time to analyze his answers for these questions. However, Bai Yunj only needed to glance at the questions and she could tell that he was right or wrong. Can I consult you more often in the future? The boy asked nervously. Normally, Bai Yunj would not have the patience to teach him. She was not interested in things that were too basic. This was something that Tich and Jasmine knew very well. However, Bai Yunj could also tell that the boy in front of her, who was about 3 years younger than her, was introverted and had low self-esteem. She was silent for a moment before she said, Sure, but I'll be leaving Yun University in a few days. When he heard this, the boy was a little disappointed. Aren't you going to be working for a long time? Bai Yunj chuckled softly. Do you think I have such a good temper? The students in the junior class were notoriously difficult to manage. Bai Yunj had always been good at using violence to curb violence. Bai Yunj glanced at the name on his exercise book and said casually, Suzhou. Not everyone can reach the end of the path of scientific research. However, no one can prove that there is only gold on the road to the end. Suzhou was stunned for a moment. His heart was inexplicably touched. After a long while. Pippi Reading Network. Suzhou looked at Bai Yunj in front of him and suddenly mustered up the courage to ask, Assistant Pei, do you teach any students? Bai Yunj stopped playing with her phone. After a moment, she looked up at Suzhe and said, I don't teach students anymore. This made Suzhe a little disappointed. But the next moment, she said slowly, if you like computers, you can try entering a computing institute in the future. Computing institute? Suzhe knew about this Institute of Computing Technology. It was the top institute of computing technology in the country. It was said that he was poached by this institute. However, this computing institute was very difficult to enter, especially after there were rumors of a new member of the computing institute. The people who went for the interview were almost all the top talents in computer science. I'm in this house. Bai Yunj suddenly said. Suzhou was both shocked and impressed. Really? Teaching assistant Pei, you're amazing. I heard that he is also in there. You're actually from the same computing firm. Bai Yunj, over the past few days, only Suzhou would come to Bai Yunj to ask questions. But when they saw that Suzhou often asked for questions, the others also had some doubts. Not far away. Someone whispered, look, Suzhou is asking that teaching assistant questions again. It's been 2 or 3 days, right? This Suzhou is really discerning. He knows that she has a strong background and goes to please her every day. The girl next to her sneered as she touched up her makeup. But does that teaching assistant really know how to solve our questions? When the girl heard her companion's question, she also laughed sarcastically. What's so great about knowing how to solve it? That idiot Suzhou's standards are so poor. What's so difficult about teaching him? Chapter 780. Just nice. Feng Jiangwen, who had returned, heard their discussion and glanced at Suzhou, who was on Bai Yunj's side. He sneered, he's indeed an idiot. He kicked the stool and said weakly, there are 5 spots for the junior class competition this time. If you want to go with me, you'd better decide today. Everyone's eyes lit up when they heard this. Feng Jiangwen was the son of the dean of Yun University. In addition, he had a son at an old age, so he was especially doted on. And almost every spot in the junior class was recommended by Feng Jiangwen. This time was no exception. When Feng Jiangwen left the classroom with the basketball, the girls behind started discussing excitedly. Look! The big boss with a real background is in the class, okay? Soon. That's right. Look at that idiot Suzhou. He was rejected 3 times. This time, he actually dared to offend Feng Jiangwen and stand blindly. Someone mocked, what's the use of sucking up to the teaching assistant? Can the teaching assistant let him have a spot in this competition? Si Qingyan took a sip of tea and continued watching the horror movie. He said leisurely, hey, isn't Master Pei the teaching assistant of your precious junior class? Let Master Pei choose. Hearing this, the principal's eyes landed on Bai Yunj. Bai Yunj had just returned to his office when he saw the current principal looking for Teacher Ho. Where's Teacher Ho? Don't they care about their class's spot in the competition? Si Qingyan was speechless. Indeed, the big-shot teaching assistant did not care about the lives of the students at all. Bai Yunj glanced at Si Qingyan calmly and said slowly, until now, I only remember one student. Principal Zhang was speechless. Bai Yunj's evaluation was already very high. Si Qingyan's eyelid twitched. Yunj, what's your impression of that student? Principal Zhang asked. His talent is average, but he's quite hardworking. Interesting. Even an outsider like him could not stand it anymore. However, Jasmine and Tich liked their teacher. They liked her very much. What's that student's name? Principal Zhang asked. In her heart, was there anyone with good talent? Jasmine and Tich, geniuses who were 1 in a million, were despised by her. Principal Zhang put a tick next to Suzhou's name list. Bai Yunj nodded casually and continued to look through the documents. Bai Yunj said, Suzhou. I don't think he's participated in a competition before. Let's let him participate this time. Everyone saw that there were 5 registration forms, and one of them had already filled in a name. Suzha. Afternoon. Everyone turned around and found that Suzha's seat was empty. How is this possible? Feng Jiangwen hadn't filled it in yet, so why did Suzha fill it in first? Are you sure you didn't write it wrong? Someone exclaimed. Why was he assigned to participate in the competition? That was impossible. For the past few days, Feng Jiangwen's attitude towards the teaching assistant had been so bad, and Suzha was obviously trying to curry favor with the teaching assistant. Someone asked subconsciously. Could it be that Feng Jiangwen gave it to her? How could Feng Jiangwen treat Suzha so well? At this moment, Feng Jiangwen happened to return. He glanced at the registration form and frowned. Don't take my registration forms. Put them back. I'll choose the remaining 4. Usually, Teacher Ho did not care about this matter. Because he knew Dean Feng, he gave the right to choose the candidates to Feng Jiangwen. However, this time, it was an accident. Chapter 781. No one expected that Principal Zheng would throw the matter to Bai Yunj when he couldn't find Teacher Ho. Suddenly, the student who came to deliver the name list hesitated. But, the principal said that the quota for this competition will be decided by the teaching assistant of your class. As soon as he finished speaking, there was silence in the hall. Feng Jiangwen froze and instinctively turned back to ask, "What did you say?" The male student was embarrassed. This form has to be handed over to the teaching assistant of your class. What right does she have to allocate the quota for our class? Feng Jiangwen directly threw the mineral water bottle on the ground. He was furious. This is arranged by Principal Zheng. Seeing this, the male student was stunned for a long time. When the others heard this, they had nothing to say. They were shocked for a long time by the identity of the teaching assistant. She knew Principal Bai and Principal Zheng. What was her background? Feng Jiangwen gritted his teeth. In the end, he suppressed his anger and sat in his seat without saying a word. However, unfortunately, at this moment, Suzha happened to come back. After seeing the registration form in the boy's hand, he pondered for a moment, took a deep breath and went forward to ask. Feng Jiangwen, can I sign up for the competition? Although he had applied for the competition several times and was rejected, he still wanted to give himself a chance. Suzha, don't you already have a quota? I saw a registration form that has been filled out. Your name is written on it. Someone whispered. What? Suzhou was stunned. When Feng Jiangwen heard this, he suddenly raised his head and looked at Suzhou in disbelief. Soon. Feng Jiangwen gritted his teeth and sneered. Suzhou, you're really good. You're not good at answering questions, but you're so good at unorthodox methods. Seeing the situation in the junior class, the male student who came to deliver the registration form felt that the atmosphere was too tense. The teaching assistant of your class, the next second. Feng Jiangwen suddenly stood up, grabbed Suzhou's collar and dragged him to the side. Suzhou was pale and thin. His face immediately turned red. When the others saw Feng Jiangwen's action, they didn't dare to stop him. Feng Jiangwen was the son of Dean Feng. Who dared to provoke him? The seniors who fought with Feng Jiangwen before were all persuaded to leave. Why don't you King solve these questions for me? Feng Jiangwen pressed his neck rudely. It was obvious that he was venting his anger on Suzhou. His tone was sarcastic. You're a stupid pig. Do you even deserve it? Student. What are you doing in school? The male student who sent the form immediately. Don't be a busybody. Feng Jiangwen turned around and sneered, his face full of hostility. Why don't you try and see who will be the one to drop out of school in the future? When the male student tested, but he was no. Suzhou, you're just a useless piece of trash. 2. TSS. Zha. You piece of trash, why did you think of it like that? Why don't you beg me? Feng Jiangwen had been aggrieved for the past few days. Now that he had the chance, he didn't hold back at all. When the others saw this scene, they also felt that Feng Jiangwen had gone overboard, but no one stopped him. After that, just as the male student threw down the form and was about to help Suja, a basketball hit Feng Jiangwen's head accurately. P.S. Good guys, remember the monthly ticket. Chapter 782. Feng Jiangwen's vision turned black for a moment and he almost fell forward in a sorry state. When everyone saw this scene, they all sucked in a breath of cold air. Who was so bold? Who dared to hit Feng Jiangwen? This was Dean Feng's biological son. Immediately after, everyone turned their heads and saw Bai Yunj, who had just returned from playing basketball. Bai Yunj placed a bottle of mineral water on the table. Her overly beautiful eyes were undisciplined, but they inexplicably made people feel cold. Do you like to cause trouble for yourself so much? Bai Yunj smiled faintly, and the coldness in her eyes was frightening. Feng Jiangwen had already been hit once and had no intention of tolerating it. Bai Yunj, how dare you hit me? Feng Jiangwen's words seemed to be squeezed out from between his teeth. It was so eerie that it was frightening. This person was really detestable. It was just as Yu Ling had said. She was daring because of her connections. But this time, he was also prepared to let this person know how she had kicked an iron plate. Did she really think that she was so great just because she knew Bai Mingzhang? She was just a high school repeater. Could it be that Bai Mingzhang would protect her like she was his granddaughter? Bai Yunj raised her eyebrows, licked her lips, and said unhurriedly, "Get out of here now. It's good for everyone." As soon as she finished speaking. At this moment, the students in the junior class realized that their assistant could no longer be described as bold. When Feng Jiangwen heard this, his face turned even darker. He stared viciously at Bai Yunj. "Bai Yunj, do you think I don't dare to hit a woman?" Feng Jiangwen's joints creaked. No one doubted that Feng Jiangwen would very likely hit Bai Yunj at this time. Bai Yunj sneered playfully, walked in front of Feng Jiangwen, and said slowly, "Listen, what you should be thinking about now is whether you want to crawl out or get out of here." Feng Jiangwen's gaze turned fierce and he reached out to strangle Bai Yunj's neck. But just as everyone's hearts were in their throats, they saw Bai Yunj's slender hand grab Feng Jiangwen's wrist just like that. The next moment, the crisp sound of bones cracking could be heard, sending chills down one's spine. What followed was Feng Jiangwen's unprepared howl of pain. "Assistant! Assistant Instructor Pei," Suja subconsciously shouted, he's Dean Feng's." Before Suja could say anything, Feng Jiangwen was grabbed by the collar by the skinny girl in front of him and thrown out. Feng Jiangwen staggered and held onto the desk by the door, almost falling to the ground. But then, Bai Yunj, who was walking over, lifted her leg and kicked Feng Jiangwen's but without hesitation. Feng Jiangwen immediately fell to his knees. He was beaten to a sorry state. Seeing this scene, everyone felt a pain in their buttocks, as if they had just survived a disaster. He originally thought that this was a girl who needed protection, but who would have thought that this beautiful girl was actually a ruthless person? Bai Yunj's usually upturned eyes were cold. She dragged Feng Jiangwen by the back of his collar and walked down the long corridor. Feng Jiangwen had no strength to struggle. The passers-by were stunned by this scene and did not dare to make a sound. It was only when they turned a corner that Bai Yunj threw Feng Jiangwen towards the trash can. Feng Jiangwen almost fell into the trash can. You, Feng Jiangwen's face was pale. One of his hands was in so much pain that he could not feel it. After being kicked by Bai Yunj, he felt as if his bones were about to fall apart. At this moment, the way he looked at Bai Yunj had changed. Chapter 783. This person was really terrifying. Feng Jiangwen saw that Bai Yunj was still approaching him and his heart was in a mess. He gritted his teeth and said, Bai Yunj. I'm Dean Feng's son. If you don't want to cause trouble, you'd better. Before Feng Jiangwen could finish his words, he was slowly interrupted. Is that so? Bai Yunj raised her eyebrows and then turned to leave. When Feng Jiangwen saw this scene, his eyes darkened. He had just made a fool of himself because of Bai Yunj. How could he let Bai Yunj off? Feng Jiangwen's eyes were full of hatred. He picked up the abandoned wooden plank next to him and limped towards Bai Yunj. He suddenly raised the wooden plank and threw it behind Bai Yunj. This scene was frightening to watch. But no one expected the situation to change in the next moment. Before Feng Jiangwen's wooden plank could hit Bai Yunj suddenly grabbed his other wrist. This made Feng Jiangwen unable to move. Bai Yunj glanced at him and sneered softly. There was a playful and cold light in her eyes. So you like to court death so much? Then, before Feng Jiangwen could react, he felt a pain in his knee. The next moment, he knelt in front of this unbelievably beautiful girl. The girl in front of him looked down at him condescendingly. Suddenly, the corners of her lips curled upwards. She raised her foot and kicked him in the shoulder. Feng Jiangwen fell to the ground. Bai Yunj stepped on his chest and there was a dull pain in his chest. Seeing this scene, some people went directly to the principal's office and the dean's office to find someone quickly. 10 minutes later, Dean Feng rushed over anxiously. When he looked up, he saw his arrogant son being stepped on by a girl. What are you doing? Dean Feng's expression changed and he immediately shouted. Hearing this, everyone turned around and saw Dean Feng. They knew that Bai Yunj was in big trouble. This was Dean Feng's son. Wasn't Bai Yunj courting death? At this moment, Bai Yunj was the only one who turned his head to glance at Director Feng leisurely. Then, he continued to pour the half-filled bottle of water into the glass. Feng Jiangwen choked on the cold water that splashed on his face. You! Dean Feng's face was ashen as he pointed at the audacious person not far away. Why aren't you stopping? Bai Yunj only loosened his grip after he finished pouring the water. He tightened the bottle and slowly threw it into the trash can. In the dean's office, the director's assistant was wiping the water off Feng Jiangwen's face. His heart ached as he said loudly, "Isn't this behavior too bad? This is a student of the junior class. What kind of bear's heart and leopard's guts did you eat to dare to hit someone?" The people outside could hear the scolding from inside through the door. Dean Feng's expression turned ugly. Which branch are you from? Bai Yunj didn't say anything. Feng Jiangwen pushed the dean's assistant aside and sneered, "She is the new teaching assistant in our class. I think she is still studying in high school. She repeated a grade in her 3rd year of high school. She can come to our school as a teaching assistant in her 3rd year of high school?" Dean Feng narrowed his eyes. If it were any other time, he wouldn't have offended such a person. After all, it was obvious that she had connections. But now, Bai Yunj had slapped him in the face. She even dared to hit his son. He didn't care what connections she had. He had to give him an explanation today. "Call your parents here now," Dean Feng said coldly. Chapter 784. When Bai Yunj heard this, he didn't panic at all. He glanced at him casually and asked, "Which parent?" "The one who made you a teaching assistant." Dean Feng sneered. He wanted to know who was so capable as to arrange for an ordinary repeater to be a teaching assistant at a top school like Yun University. What right did she have? Bai Yunj thought for a moment and lazily called Bai Mingzhang. Bai Mingzhang, who was in Yun Nonglin next door, took a deep breath when he received the call. Go, wait for me for a while. I'll come as soon as possible." Bai Yunj hesitated but didn't ask further. Okay. After hanging up the phone, Bai Mingzhang calmed down and looked at Tian Hejing, who was holding the dog leash. "Old Tian, I only grabbed a handful of vegetables. You don't have to be so calculative, right?" Tian Hejing's face darkened and he sneered. "A handful of vegetables? If I didn't come, my vegetable garden would have been destroyed in your hands again today." With that said, The hound beside Tian Hejing was already glaring at Bai Mingzhang fiercely. It stuck out its tongue and drooled. Old Tian, Gu, is looking for me. Let's settle this next time, okay? Bai Mingzhang looked at the students outside the door and felt a little embarrassed. He could only cough lightly and say, Gu, that's. Tian Hejing reacted and immediately lowered his voice. Old Zhong's precious daughter? What old Zhong's daughter? From now on, she's my biological daughter. Bai Mingzhang raised his head arrogantly. Tian Hejing, don't be so smug. Lanjun didn't even look at you, and you're already treating someone else's daughter as your own? Did she say what happened? Tian Hejing asked. Bai Mingzhang then remembered. I think so. She had a conflict with someone at Yun University. Tian Hejing, it seemed that this daughter was very talented and had a very strong temper. In the dean's office of Yun University's main residence. Hit someone? If you dare to hit someone at Yun University, don't even think about becoming a student of Yun University in the future. The dean's assistant was already scolding him. Dean Feng was sitting at his desk, drinking tea. Feng Jiangwen rubbed his wrist and sneered at Bai Yunj. He was not in a hurry to go to the hospital. He wanted to see with his own eyes how unlucky Bai Yunj was. When can I leave? Bai Yunj was getting a little impatient. You still want to leave? The assistant wanted to say something, but he was interrupted again. Director Feng glanced at Bai Yunj and laughed. You can leave after your parents come and apologize to my son. When Feng Jiangwen heard this, he leaned back on the sofa with his head held high. He was in a good mood. Bai Yunj glanced at Director Feng and licked his lips. Sure. Seeing that Bai Yunj was not anxious at all, the dean's assistant beside her felt that this was the first time she had met such an arrogant student. Director, we must let Hengda High School deal with this student properly. How can you hit someone in school? As soon as he finished speaking. Suddenly, the door was pushed open. Everyone saw that it was the former principal of Yun University, Bai Mingzhang, and Tian Hejing from Yunqing Agricultural University. They were stunned. Director Feng choked on his words. Principal Bai, Principal Tian, why are you two so free to come to my place? He subconsciously asked. However, the two of them ignored him and walked straight to Bai Yunj. Gu, let me see. Are you hurt? Chapter 785. I'm fine. Bai Yunj looked at Bai Mingzhang in front of her, tugged at her sleeve, and sized her up. She was relieved. You said you had a conflict with someone. Don't you know to look for Si Qingyan? What if you're injured? Won't that old fellow Zhong Xinglin strangle me to death? After Bai Mingzhang finished speaking, Dean Feng and his assistant heard a familiar name. Zhong Xinglin, was that the person they were familiar with? The director of the Computing Institute, Zhong Xinglin? What did this girl have to do with Zhong Xinglin? At this moment, Bai Mingzhang reacted and frowned. Who had a conflict with my guru? He didn't look like he was here to reason. He looked like he was here to cause trouble. Dean Feng braced himself and said, Principal Bai, I thought you didn't care much about Yun University anymore? When Bai Mingzhang heard this, he turned around and smiled. Why? I don't have any say now that I've retired. Alright, get your current principal to come over. When Bai Mingzhang said this, Dean Feng's heart skipped a beat. The current principal was Bai Mingzhang's student. It was impossible for Principal Zheng not to stand on Bai Mingzhang's side. Principal Bai, it's like this. Bai Yunj's teaching assistant hit my son, Feng Jiangwen, in front of everyone. And I'm the principal of the school. I can't just sit back and do nothing. Dean Feng's words were all Bai Yunj's fault. Tian Hejing was a little surprised. He didn't expect Lan Jun's temper to be able to raise such an unreasonable girl. Gu, why did you hit him? Bai Mingzhang didn't think that Bai Yunj would hit someone for no reason. Bai Yunj glanced at Feng Jiangwen on the sofa and said leisurely, self-defense. Feng Jiangwen's expression changed. He suddenly remembered that after leaving the classroom, Bai Yunj indeed didn't hit him. Instead, Bai Yunj only started to hit him after he did. Feng Jiangwen immediately said without thinking, "She hit me in the classroom too. My hand is broken and I can't feel it." Other than his hands, Feng Jiangwen actually felt the most pain in his buttocks. However, he was too embarrassed to say it in public. Bai Yunj stood there lazily and glanced at him from the corner of his eyes. He did not intend to speak. But not long after. Suddenly, a voice came from outside the door. "He attacked me first, so Assistant Instructor Pei had no choice but to act." When everyone heard that, they saw Su Zhe in a blink of an eye. Su Zhe covered his forehead, pursed his lips, and put down his hand. The side of her fair forehead seemed to have been scratched by the edge of the desk, leaving a trail of blood. Indeed, it didn't seem like it was done by him. Behind Su Zhe was Si Qingyan. It was obvious that Si Qingyan had not arrived in time and had gone to find someone for Bai Yunj. Nonsense. Dean Feng's face turned cold as he reprimanded. At this moment, Bai Mingzhang's cold gaze swept over him. "Why? Must you speak the truth only if you help your son? Principal Bai, I remember that you don't have a granddaughter." Dean Feng braced himself and asked. "Indeed, she's not mine. She's Lanjuan's granddaughter. Do you want to talk to Lin Lanjun about this?" "Principal. Principal Lin?" Dean Feng's expression changed. Lin Lanjun was also highly respected at Yun University back then. If she hadn't taken the initiative to retire, she would have been the vice principal of Yun University back then. However, many of the teachers of Yun University now were students who had received Lin Lanjun's favor. At the side, Feng Jiangwen's originally smug face had already stiffened. Chapter 786. Dean Feng, do you still remember that the junior class went to a high-class clubhouse a few days ago? Si Qingyan walked in and naturally stood beside Bai Yunj. He smiled and said, "You should know best who the organizer is." Dean Feng panicked. "What nonsense are you talking about?" He looked up and said fiercely, "Si Qingyan, don't think that just because you're the youngest professor at Yun University, everyone's tolerance for you has no limit. I don't know if there's a limit to everyone's tolerance for me. But Dean Feng's tolerance for his son has never been lower." Si Qingyan laughed. "Dean Feng, why is your son in the junior class?" Si Qingyan. These words made Dean Feng panic for some reason. "You should have revealed the questions for every junior class exam to your son, right?" Si Qingyan said slowly, "Otherwise, why is Feng Jiangwen's results always the worst in every competition?" With that said, Su Zhe looked at Feng Jiangwen in disbelief. It was true that Feng Jiangwen rarely did questions in class, but his results were always very good. As a result, everyone felt that Feng Jiangwen must be the student with the highest IQ in the class. And that time, Teacher Ho had come up with a question that the entire class did not know. Hence, no one realized that something was wrong. "No. Impossible. I have a high IQ." Feng Jiangwen stood up and immediately retorted. Si Qingyan did not speak. Feng Jiangwen was indeed quite smart, but he was only a little smarter than normal people. However, he was still a little far from being a real genius. At this moment, Bai Yunj glanced at him when she heard this. "Soon." Bai Mingzhang said, "This matter has a bad impact. There's also school bullying. I'll get someone to investigate thoroughly." With that, Bai Mingzhang asked the dean's assistant to leave with Bai Yunj and the other students. He was alone with Dean Feng and the rest. "Dean Feng, you should be glad that your son didn't hurt anyone. Otherwise, even you would have to pay the price." Bai Mingzhang's expression turned cold. Dean Feng's expression was ugly. "Principal Bai, you're protecting Bai Yunj. Letting a repeat student like her be a teaching assistant in the junior class is probably more shocking than my news, right? Hearing this, Si Qingyan chuckled as well. Dean Feng is still quite naive. This matter cannot be exposed. Dean Feng was stunned. Why? Tian Hejing, who was standing next to him, said unhurriedly, that's because the higher-ups are not allowed to disclose her information. Finished speaking. Dean Feng's expression changed drastically. People whose information was not allowed to be made public were usually protected by the country. How could such a person be related to the scientific research community? There was only one possibility. Genius. A true genius. Even the students of the junior class couldn't compare to him. Impossible. It must be fake. How could she have that kind of talent? Dean Feng found it difficult to accept this fact. Bai Mingzhang looked at him for a while, then sneered. He said coldly, today, if she's hurt even a little bit, Yun University's junior class might be disbanded. Dean Feng's face immediately turned pale. The others didn't say much to Dean Feng. After all, Director Feng was not qualified to sign the confidentiality agreement and know Bai Yunji's identity. After Bai Mingzhang and the others left, Director Feng almost fell onto the sofa. Chapter 787. Dean Feng's face was pale and his mind was buzzing. How could this be? When did such a person appear in their circle? At the door. Feng Jiangwen's face was ashen as he gritted his teeth and looked at Bai Yunji. Bai Yunji, why did you come to the junior class? If it wasn't for her, his father wouldn't have offended Principal Bai. With Bai Yunji's background, she didn't need the reputation of being the assistant teacher of the junior class. I'm free. Bai Yunji glanced at him and her phone vibrated. She took out her phone, glanced at Suzhi, and left. Go and treat your wounds first. Okay, Suzhi looked at Bai Yunji's departing figure with a complicated gaze. In the end, he made a bold decision. He wanted to enter the computing institute. By the window. Bai Yunji picked up the phone and said leisurely, what's wrong? Shang Yan's gentle voice sounded from the phone through the current. I need you to come to our nation. When are you free? Bai Yunji raised her eyebrows. Around the day after tomorrow. Shang Yan seemed a little surprised. He paused for a moment and asked, fair as prize? Yes, I'll go over and settle something on the way. Hearing Bai Yunji's words, Shang Yan also chuckled. Okay, then let Niayu pick you up. I need you to confirm a few research and development products for Higgins. Bai Yunji had never seen Niayu before. She only knew that he was Shang Yan's assistant. Okay. After hanging up, Bai Yunji was about to go back when another call came in. It was an unknown number. Bai Yunji raised her eyebrows and hung up. On the other side. CI-7 Yunqing branch. Jiang Song hesitated for a moment before confirming one thing. Wenxin School. He was hung up by this new member of the chaos. Jiang Song, this was the first time someone had hung up on him. Jiang Song endured it and took a deep breath. He couldn't be angry. The higher-ups had said that this was a big shot who had single-handedly defeated all of hibernating Lion 173. He had to give the big shot a little more care. After dialing another number, Jiang Song began to flip out. What's wrong with you chaosists? Max isn't picking up the phone. The one who answered the phone was the deputy leader of the Chaos Men, Yin Sha. Yin Sha rolled her eyes, but her tone was very gentle. Max doesn't like to answer the phone. I suggest you send a text message. After that, Yin Sha hung up the phone. What a joke. How did he think Kay got in touch with Max? If they called Max every day, Max would lose her temper and tear them apart. Wouldn't it be polite and amiable to send a text message to inform the big boss first? Jiang Song's face darkened after being hung up on for the second time. The chaosists were simply too arrogant. Did they think that they wouldn't want anyone else other than the K-assists? Afternoon. Bei Yunj was eating shaved ice when her phone suddenly vibrated. She took it out and saw that it was a message from the unknown number. Max, have you been too busy recently? I'm Jiang Song, the director of the CI7 Yun City branch. I'd like to invite you to the Yun City branch for a simple understanding. You can set the time and the address will be sent to your phone. Is that okay? I'm looking forward to meeting you. Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows and remembered that there was such a matter. Soon. Bei Yunj lazily stirred the shaved ice with one hand and replied to his message. Sure. Jiang Song took a look and immediately replied to Bei Yunj's message. You're not coming recently? Are you very busy recently? Chapter 788. Bei Yunj's beautiful eyes narrowed. She bit her small spoon and typed a message. Yes, get an award. On the other side, Jiang Song was speechless. Get an award? Jiang Song turned his head and asked his companion, do you know Max? Is she an artist? Have you read too many romance novels? How can a hacker be a part-time artist? The boy with curly hair laughed. Jiang Song was even more puzzled. Then where is she going to get an award? What? To get an award? Let me see. The guy with curly hair immediately snatched the phone and looked at the simple chat history for a while. Finally, he said, Boss, you're such a lackey. Jiang Song's cold gaze fell on the guy with curly hair. The guy with curly hair shook his head. It's a man's act to endure humiliation. Jiang Song didn't have time to argue with him. He just couldn't help but ask, is there any particularly important award ceremony in the next few days? It was actually more important than entering C-17. Thinking back, when they first had a meeting with C-17's internal staff, they couldn't sleep in the middle of the night and couldn't wait to fly over to sign the agreement. This person, on the other hand, had a full schedule. They still had to make an appointment with her. Recently? Yes, Country R's fairest prize, the guy with curly hair said straightforwardly. Jiang Song was speechless. What did you say? The guy with curly hair thought that Jiang Song really didn't hear him clearly and started talking non-stop. The fairest mathematics prize is the highest honor in the mathematics world. Those who can win this prize are geniuses among geniuses. Then do you think this prize has anything to do with Max? Jiang Song smiled slightly. Wasn't this lower than the probability of Max being an artist? The guy with curly hair thought for a while. Aren't those who study computer science very good at mathematics? Good your head. Jiang Song slapped the back of the guy's head to wake him up. He had read too much, hadn't he? The next day. The punishment from the higher-ups was quickly handed down. Feng Jiangwen was temporarily suspended, but Dean Feng was dismissed. This matter spread like wildfire in the school. Feng Jiangwen's expression was even worse. He didn't speak to anyone for the whole day. Until noon. The competition of the junior class began. In the conference hall. Bei Yunj was sitting in the third row. When she saw the results of the junior class in Yuncheng, she quickly lowered her head and played with her phone. Fortunately, Teacher Ho's ability to withstand pressure was strong. He could still maintain a fake smile. 311. Yuncheng University's Junior Class 3, Beichuan University's Junior Class 11. As the top university in the country, Yun University had lost miserably this time. Yun University's enrollment was much stricter than Beichuan University's. However, the students of Yun University's junior class thought that their high IQ and ability could suppress everything and were unwilling to work hard on their studies. So this was good. This time, the people from Beichuan next door were rubbing their faces against the ground. Until today, the students of Yun University's junior class finally realized that they did not have the right to be at ease. Seeing the dejected faces of the students of Yun University's junior class, Bei Yunj also felt that this competition was a very good lesson. Teacher Ho, calm down. Bei Yunj glanced at Teacher Ho. He was probably thinking of Tich and the others, so he suddenly became gentler towards Teacher Ho. Teacher Ho was a little surprised by Bei Yunj's sudden consolation. Read, 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 he sighed. We're probably going to lose this competition. What's so important about losing? Bei Yunj's understanding words made Jian Shi, who was playing games at the side, slowly turn to look at her. Last time, when Jasmine was careless in the competition and almost tied with the second place, she remembered that Bei Yunj did not say that. Bei Yunj's original words were, "Fortunately, you won this time. Otherwise, I really don't know if I should start teaching you from the elementary school curriculum again." Their teacher's damn desire to win. You're right. You have a good mentality. Teacher Ho nodded in agreement. Only Jian Shi lowered her head and did not dare to speak. Bei Yunj's eyes were still bright and unruly. There was a lazy smile on his face as he lazily supported his chin with one hand. Until the intermission. When the students on the stage came down, people from Beichuan University next door laughed. Are they really from the junior class? Why are they not much different from the high school class? After asking, there was a burst of laughter next door. This made the Yun University junior class students who came down from the stage turn green and red. Lost? Teacher Ho asked indifferently. The junior class students fell silent. They began to understand why Teacher Ho was so strict with them. No matter how talented they were, there would be times when they would be eliminated. They're definitely not from the junior class. One of the students looks like she's about 19 or 20 years old. A girl with a round face said angrily. At this moment, the Beichuan University students next door heard it clearly. Then you should find a student who's 19 or 20 years old to come up together. Our class is not afraid, the junior class student next door said arrogantly. Hey, their class's assistant looks like she's only 19 or 20 years old. Someone suddenly interrupted. This made Bei Yunj, who was playing with her phone, stop. Soon. The assistant next door walked over. She was a girl in her mid-20s. She smiled and said, "Since that's the case, why don't your school's assistant give it a try? The assistant is so young. We do want to know the standards of your school's teachers." Teacher Ho's body stiffened. Until now, Teacher Ho had always thought that Bei Yunj had gotten in through the back door to become an assistant. She was probably not even at the level of their junior class. There's no need. Bei Yunj did not even raise her head and rejected her calmly. As for the others, they looked at the young assistant from Yun University. She did not seem to care about the outcome of the junior class at all. She could even play the maps of the gods so calmly. A thought immediately appeared in their minds. This assistant is probably a fake. No wonder the standards of Yun University's junior class were so bad. Can anyone from Yun University be an assistant? Someone mocked softly. That's right. Our Beichuan's junior class assistant is already a doctoral student. Half of the students in Beichuan's junior class were students who had failed to get into Yun University. Therefore, they had accumulated a lot of resentment towards Yun University. When the people from Yun University's junior class heard this, they felt like they had been slapped in the face for the first time. It's none of your business. A boy from Yun University's junior class said unhappily. It was not because he had a good relationship with Bei Yunj. He only felt that Bei Yunj was being mocked this time mostly because they couldn't win. In the end, half of the responsibility was on them. That's right. What does my standards have to do with her? She's just an assistant who's temporarily in our class. Another girl glanced at Bei Yunj and said coldly. At this moment, Jian Shi was a little surprised. This group of people was not hopeless. She could not help but turn to look at Bei Yunj. She was waiting for her reply. Chapter 789. These students weren't too bad. It was just that their maturity couldn't match their high IQ for the time being. You're so protective of your class's assistant. Is it because your class's assistant is really bad? Beichuan's students seized the opportunity to mock them. At this moment, the junior class of Yun University was so angry that their faces turned red. However, before they could speak, the person beside them suddenly stood up. She slowly bit down on the rubber band on her wrist and casually tied up her long hair. Bei Yunj smiled nonchalantly. Her eyes were lazy and impudent. She was also in high spirits. Then thank you, Beichuan, for being willing to give us a chance to redeem ourselves. As soon as she finished speaking, the junior class of Yun University was speechless. Forget it, forget it. Don't be calculative. This person will leave tomorrow. Moreover, they couldn't beat her. After Bei Yunj walked out, her bright and beautiful eyes glanced at them casually. She said lightly, "How embarrassing." The junior class of Yun University was speechless. These words made the junior class of Yun University furious. However, in the next moment, they saw Bei Yunj standing on the stage. Aren't you going to continue the competition?" After Teacher Ho reacted, he didn't know how much confidence Bei Yunj had, so he could only let her do as she pleased. Anyway, she couldn't win this time. However, when the second round of the competition began, she held her face with both hands and looked at Bei Yunj with bright eyes. She looked like a fangirl. "Teacher Ho, don't worry. There won't be any accidents this time." Teacher Ho was stunned. "You mean, she can win? How can my teacher lose?" She smiled. Teacher Ho was speechless. Could he still believe the words of a fangirl like her? On the stage, looking at the free questions on the screen, Bei Yunj casually pressed 5 questions. Everyone looked at the big screen. Yunqing University chose the 5 questions with the highest scores. This made the legs of the junior class of Yun University go weak. Did this master know that if she wrote a wrong question, she would lose double the points? Otherwise, why would there be so many questions left? Now, she had directly picked the question with the highest score, 5 points per question. The participating students looked at their teaching assistants expressionlessly. This time, he was probably going to get a negative score. They began to suspect that the teaching assistant was holding a grudge against them and was purposely making things difficult for them. "This, contestant? Are you sure you want to ask 5 questions at once?" The professor below the stage could not help but ask. These questions were set according to the standards of the International Mathematics Competition. At this moment, Si Qingyan happened to take off his earplugs and accidentally saw the person on stage from the corner of his eye. Si Qingyan was speechless. Who the hell put this person up there? Wouldn't Yun University be accused of cheating in the future? Losing wasn't shameful, cheating was. Wait, who put this person up? Si Qingyan stood up and asked. This was the first time that everyone had seen this young and handsome professor with a dark face. On the stage, Bei Yunj glanced at him calmly. "It was suggested by our university's teaching assistant." "I don't think it's a big deal," the professor from Beichuan next door said generously. Si Qingyan was speechless. When you lose until you can't get up later, you won't think it's a big deal. Wasn't letting Bei Yunj PK a group of kids from the junior class equivalent to a max-level big shot entering a novice village? P.S. Be good and remember the monthly votes. Chapter 790. This doesn't conform to the rules, does it? Si Qingyan gave a fake smile and shot Bei Yunj a look to get her off the stage. However, Bei Yunj glanced at him and only smiled with curved eyes. Si Qingyan was speechless. Why didn't this guy have any self-awareness as a big boss? Why? Are you afraid that your teaching assistant will lose too? The professor smiled. It's okay. It's just a friendly competition. Si Qingyan was speechless. Fine, you asked for it. He had tried his best. On stage, no one rushed to answer the next few big questions. Even the neighboring Bei Chuan only dared to fight for 3 points at most. Bei Yunj, on the other hand, did not even blink when she answered the questions with the highest scores. 3 5 points, 1 6 points, and 1 7 points. If she could do this, they would call her ancestor in the future. The students of Yun University were silent, but that was what they were thinking. On the other hand, Pei Yunj picked up the chalk and glanced at the question. Then, she started writing without looking up. This smooth process of answering the questions made the Beichuan professor next door, who was originally leisurely, gradually stiffen all over. The Beichuan professor next door took a closer look and his eyes suddenly widened. What is she doing? After a while, Professor Do, who had arrived late, suddenly felt that the person on stage looked familiar. This person, suddenly. Professor Do reacted. Bei Yunj? He quickly turned to ask Si Qingyan, why is she up there? Si Qingyan lowered his head, not daring to look at the cruel massacre that was about to happen. The teaching assistant next door invited me to see this person's ability. Professor Do couldn't help but turn around and look at the professor next door with mixed feelings. They, Bei Chuan, were getting more and more beaten up. As long as you're happy, Professor Do only said. Love network at this moment. The expression of the teaching assistant next door also changed. She couldn't even smile. Initially, she just wanted to ridicule the people from Yun University, but she didn't expect that this young-looking teaching assistant was actually not someone who got in through the back door. Her solution has a hint of success. A professor who was watching the show laughed and nodded in appreciation. Si Qingyan could not bring himself to smile. Isn't that so? This wasn't just a little bit, this was the real deal. Si Qingyan started to feel heartbroken over Bei Yunj's inhumane behavior. This guy, couldn't he show some kindness to the flower buds that couldn't withstand the wind and rain? Gradually. After watching Bei Yunj finish one question after another, the professor next door could no longer sit still. He tried his best to resist the urge to drag the person on stage off the stage. In his heart, he regretted letting this person go on stage. Who on earth was this person? Even professors like them might not be able to finish writing as quickly as Bei Yunj. Suddenly, Bei Yunj stopped at the third question. She turned her head and asked, "Can I just write the answers?" The professors on the judging panel were speechless. The students of Yun University and Beichuan University were speechless. Were his connections so wild? This was the first time he had met someone who asked him to write down the answer directly. The eyelids of the students of Yun University's junior class twitched. They suddenly had a premonition. They seemed to have underestimated this teaching assistant of theirs. No. Si Qingyan did not care about their old relationship and was impartial. Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows. Her casual gaze made Si Qingyan's hair stand on end, and he turned his head away. But who knew? The next moment, Bei Yunj slowly picked up a piece of chalk with her left hand. P.S. Be good and remember the monthly votes. Chapter 791. Just as everyone was confused, they saw the girl on stage casually glance at the blackboard and start answering the questions with her left hand. At the same time, her right hand was still writing. This scene almost made the Beichuan junior class and professors, who had been smug just now, hold their breaths. Their hearts ached. Was this something a normal person would do? At this moment. Not to mention the people from Beichuan, even the people from Yun University felt suffocated when they saw this scene. On the other hand, the big boss on stage was still a little impatient. Her good handwriting gradually became perfunctory, and only the final answer was concise and clear. Si Qingyan instinctively covered his face with his hand, unable to bear to look at it. He remembered that the first time he saw Bei Yunj's actions, he was also stunned. However, he later found out that Bei Yunj was really a research freak who could come up with the answer and process in her mind just by looking at the question. It was real. It was because the speed of her hands could not keep up with the speed of her brain that she had such an operation. However, in the eyes of others, Bei Yunj was already writing the questions. She was like a humanoid problem-solving machine. When Bei Yunj finished writing the questions, the students from the two schools could not help but wonder if they were really geniuses. Were they not retarded? Was there really no mistake? Then what's with this strange person? It's about time. Bei Yunj casually threw the chalk into the blackboard and slowly returned to her seat. The Yun University students beside her suddenly felt suffocated by the big boss sitting beside them. The minds of the students from Yun University's junior class were in a mess. They felt even more ashamed than the students from Beichuan. Where did Principal Bai find a godly assistant for them? However, in the past few days that Bei Yunj had been working, none of them had asked any academic questions. All of them had been given to Su Zhe. Below the stage, Feng Jiangwen, who was about to record this scene and expose Bei Yunj for getting in through the back door, gradually turned pale. Hanba literature, how is this possible? How is this possible? Feng Jiangwen could not believe it. However, in the next moment, after the professors finished giving the scores, they heard an electronic notification sound in the hall. The system scores are continuously updated. Yunqing University, Beichuan University 31-11, as soon as he finished speaking. The people from Beichuan next door were having a mental breakdown. It was 3:11 just a moment ago, and now it was suddenly 20 points ahead of them. How the hell were they going to chase after her? As for the students from Yun University, they were frozen in place. They felt that this competition was a one-sided slaughter by their assistant professors. There was no need for them to exist. It wasn't until now that the students of Yun University's junior class looked at Bei Yunj's lazy profile that they finally understood, this teaching assistant was truly a god. Perhaps it was because of the huge difference in points, the arena fell into a dead silence. Suddenly, Bei Yunj rested her chin on her hand and smirked as she said slowly, "The teaching assistant next door? Why don't you answer a question too? It's just a friendly match for fun." Hearing this, the expression of the teaching assistant next door instantly turned ugly. To be honest, she didn't even have the confidence to get full marks for the questions that Bei Yunj had just done. How could this be? Since he was the teaching assistant of Yun University's junior class, he wasn't some weakling. His strength could even be said to be terrifying. Then why hadn't this group of students in the junior class improved at all? The expression of the teaching assistant from Beichuan didn't look too good, but at this moment, her students on the stage were all looking at her with hopeful eyes. P.S. I'll continue to update later. Be good and remember the monthly votes. Chapter 792. Beichuan's assistant took a deep breath, stood up, and walked onto the stage. Then, she glanced at the remaining 5-point questions and mentally prepared herself for a few minutes before checking the remaining questions. As long as she answered all 4 5-point questions correctly, she would be able to get back her points. However, she was not confident that she could get back her points. The Beichuan professor below the stage could not help but take a deep breath when he saw that their assistant had finally finished a question but stumbled on the next question. He said, "Assistant, forget it. Come down." The strength of that girl just now was too frightening. It was basically impossible for their school's assistant to win against her. This was something that everyone present could see. When Assistant Du heard this, she pursed her lips and broke the chalk with her fingers. In the end, she left the stage with an ugly expression. No matter how the students behind called out to her. In the end, without any suspense, Yun University's junior class won. However, the atmosphere below the stage made those who did not know better think that Beichuan had won. A Beichuan student patted a Yun University student on the shoulder and said with a smile, "Brother, your class is awesome. Your assistant is so strong that she can even drag an aircraft carrier, right? After a year, you guys still haven't made any progress?" Everyone in Yun University's junior class was silent. This time, their class had won, but it was even more embarrassing than losing. Soon, the other Beichuan students surrounded them. They did not hold a grudge against Bei Yunj's ruthlessness during the competition. Instead, they asked with admiration, Where did your assistant come from? She's too amazing. This is the first time I've seen someone answer questions with both hands. That's right. She's so good-looking too. Another girl said excitedly. At this moment, there were also boys who asked curiously and mockingly, "You guys are really strange. Even such a powerful assistant can't carry you guys. Did you guys donate your brains behind your assistant's back? Yin University's junior class, you're the one who donated your brains. Your whole family donated their brains. I'm going back to do the questions." One of the boys could not stand it anymore and turned to leave. Hearing this, the others also went back one by one, preparing to stay up late. This competition had completely woken them up. In terms of talent, there was always someone better than you. And their talents were not enough for them to lie down and become winners in life. Even after receiving the medal, Teacher Ho still felt like he was floating. In the corridor, his sharp eyes saw Si Qingyan and immediately went up to grab Si Qingyan's hand. "Professor Si, what's going on?" Then, didn't Yunj get in through the back door? Si Qingyan thought for a moment and said frankly, "Yes. Mr. Ho. If that's the case, why is she at this level?" When Si Qingyan heard this, he chuckled. "It's precisely because her standards are high and your class is the focus of our school's nurturing that she got in through the back door." When Teacher Ho heard this, he immediately reacted. She was indeed arranged by Principal Bai to enter through the back door. But in reality, this person had entered through the back door, and the final beneficiary was their class, she. Who is she? Teacher Ho's eyelids twitched. He had never thought that the person who got in through the back door would be an ancestor. Could a normal high school student solve a problem with two hands? What's more, this was a difficult question from an international mathematics competition. Chapter 793. Don't be anxious. You'll know in the future. Teacher Ho knew that Si Qingyan was not a person who liked to be mysterious, but looking at Si Qingyan's annoying appearance today, he still wanted to hit him. Then will she come to us again in the future? Before Teacher Ho could finish speaking, he was interrupted by Si Qingyan. Old Ho, that's enough. It's already the luck of those brats that she came to be your teaching assistant for a few days. Si Qingyan patted Teacher Ho's shoulder and left with a smile. Hearing this, Teacher Ho wanted to say something but hesitated. In the end, when Teacher Ho returned to class, everything on Bei Yunja's table had disappeared. Where's Assistant Pei? Teacher Ho asked. Teacher Ho glanced at the people present and saw that they were no longer like before. There was not even a pen on the table and it was filled with a pile of books. He said, "She won't study hard. Maybe you'll see her again in the future." With that said, someone said softly, "The assistant seems to have left and taken everything." Teacher Ho was silent. Then, someone said carefully, "Teacher Ho, will the assistant still teach us in the future?" "I don't know. Anyway, we definitely can't do it now. Our standards are too bad. No wonder the assistant doesn't like us. What kind of god is the assistant? Can I still reach the level of an assistant in my life if I answer questions with both hands?" These conversations did not seem like the usual style of conversations in the junior class. Teacher Ho walked down and was about to clean the classroom when he suddenly realized that the rubbish bin was filled with extracurricular entertainment. He was stunned for a moment before he heard the students discussing softly. How awesome must she be to see the assistant? Bei Yunj was still thinking about how to tell Washidu about going to our nation tomorrow. Bei Yunj had only wanted to slow down this matter, but she did not expect it to be delayed until today. Bei Yunj was speechless. All of them seemed to have improved a little and were no longer arrogant. Back home, Bei Yunj called out instinctively. After she regained her senses, she glanced at Qin Yu and said after a long while, "Second brother." Qin Yu did not mind that Bei Yunj called him reluctantly. Instead, when he heard his gu call him brother, he could not help but be overjoyed. He still had to face what he had to face. Bei Yunji's thoughts were uncertain. When she walked into the living room, she looked up and found that Zhong Xinglin and Qin Yu were both there. Elder Zhong? The meaning in Huashidu's eyes was unclear. He glanced at the documents on the table lazily and caressed the silver lighter with his slender and good-looking fingers. Obviously, this information was not something that could be prepared in a day or two. The child was hiding something from him. We're talking about you going to our nation for an exchange, Qin Yu said with a smile. Bei Yunj was stunned and looked at Zhong Xinglin in confusion. But soon she realized that Zhong Xinglin was asking for leave for her. Thinking of this, Bei Yunj subconsciously turned her head and looked at the man beside her who hadn't spoken a word. When Qin Yu looked up, he found that his beautiful eyes were staring straight at Huashidu, who was sitting at the side. Qin Yu, he suddenly had a bad feeling. Then, does brother agree? Bei Yunj asked. Qin Yu said without thinking, what's wrong with agreeing? But in the next moment, he felt that something was going to go out of his expectations. Huashidu slowly buttoned up the loose and sexy buttons on his collar, his dignified eyes calm and elegant. Chapter 794. I also think Elder Zhong's suggestion is very good. Perhaps. This is very important to Union's future development. Zhong Xinglin nodded with a smile. Don't worry, Mr. Hua. We've discussed this with Hengda High School. When the time comes, we will definitely ensure safety and return within 10 days. With that said, Huashidu was about to say something when Qin Yu suddenly spoke. What does that have to do with anything? Coincidentally, I'll be filming an MV in Nili for the next half a month. Gu can come with me. With that said, Qin Yu looked at Bei Yunj. Gu, can second brother go with you? Hearing this, Bei Yunj glanced at Huashidu and said after a while, up to you. Seeing this, Qin Yu started to suspect if Master Du had brainwashed his Gu. Why did Gu listen to him so much? Then this matter is settled. I'll get my assistant to book more plane tickets. Qin Yu could not hide the smile on his lips and immediately sent a message to Yang Xian. He asked Yang Xian to arrange for him to go to our nation tomorrow to film. After Yang Xian suddenly received Qin Yu's message, he could not help but call him directly, but was quickly hung up. He could only bombard Qin Yu with messages. Yang Xian? Yang Xian, dog? Hung up on me? Yang Xian, didn't you say next month? Tomorrow? Why don't you go to heaven? Qin Yu's slender fingers typed slowly. Tomorrow. Seeing the message, Yang Xian was speechless. He really wanted to know what had happened to Qin Yu today. Half a month ago, Qin Yu was still very cold and heartless in front of the company's higher-ups. It's not impossible for me to go to our nation to film an MV. We'll talk about it in 2 months. If it really doesn't work, then forget it. At this thought, Yang Xian took a deep breath and could only work overtime to arrange for Qin Yu to go overseas to film an MV tomorrow. Soon. Yang Xian regained his senses. Yang Xian, 2 plane tickets. Whose is the other one? Qin Yu, my sister's. My sister is going to be an exchange student. I'll go with her. Seeing this, Yang Xian almost wanted to smash his phone. So, Qin Yu had tormented the entire company to work overtime for him just to accompany his sister to school? Was this something a normal person would do? After everything was settled, Qin Yu was not in a hurry to leave. Instead, he stayed here for the night. Bei Yunj wanted to find an opportunity to talk to Huashidu several times, but Qin Yu caught her and chatted with her. He didn't look like the cold and aloof best actor at all. He was a living example of a clingy sister complex. Until the next day. Bei Yunj's expression did not look too good, so she decided to ignore Qin Yu. It was not until she saw the man in a suit coming downstairs that Bei Yunj dragged her suitcase forward. Brother, are you taking me there today? Huashidu glanced at the young lady with bright black eyes in front of him. How could he not know what she was thinking? This child was afraid that he would be angry. Huashidu's lips curled up imperceptibly. Then, he only responded faintly. Before Bei Yunj could react, he took Bei Yunj's luggage. Get in the car first. I'll put the things away. Huashidu was not angry. He just wanted to tease this child. All these years, Huashidu rarely had any negative emotions. He had always lived a methodical life. However, ever since Bei Yunj moved in, it was the first time Huashidu realized that he had such bad thoughts. He always wanted to bully this little girl. Okay. Bei Yunj turned around and took Huashidu's front passenger seat. Chapter 795. Qinyu, who had been looking at Bei Yunj, was very silent. Soon. Qinyu pursed his lips and walked in front of Huashidu. Master Du, Huashidu looked up. What's wrong? Do you think that there's something wrong with my gu? Qinyu asked tentatively. Huashidu paused and glanced at him carelessly. No. No? Then why is gu sticking to you and not me? Qinyu asked from the bottom of his heart. Hearing this, the light in the man's eyes darkened. Even the light in his eyes disappeared as he looked at Qinyu carelessly. How do you want her to stick to you? After getting into the car, Huashidu turned around and met the other party's clear black eyes. Seatbelt. Huashidu had just finished speaking, and before he could fasten his seatbelt, the person beside him suddenly grabbed his hand. The man turned around and her smiling voice sounded in his ear. Brother, I don't think the zipper on my back is closed. Huashidu raised an eyebrow. He had a feeling that the little fox in front of him was at it again. Just as expected. In the next moment, Bei Yunj smirked and said, It's actually fine to wear it out like this. It's just a little exposed. Huashidu was speechless. Soon. Huashidu's deep and pleasant voice sounded in Bei Yunj's ear. Come here. Bei Yunj's lips curled up and she leaned closer to Huashidu naturally. Before Huashidu's eyes could land on her fair back, the girl's hands suddenly rested lightly on his shoulder. The faint fragrance on her body lingered at the tip of his nose. The girl's hair rubbed against his sexy Adam's apple and his eyes darkened. 361 reading, brother, I'll be scared if I'm alone overseas. Bei Yunj's eyes curved and she leaned her head on the man's shoulder naturally. Huashidu also endured it. Only then did his slender and well-defined hand touch the zipper on her back. He lowered his eyes casually and did not look at the dazzling snow-white skin on her back. However, his hand pulled up gently. Seeing that Huashidu was silent, Bei Yunj deliberately hissed softly in his ear, wanting to see his reaction. As expected. The man's movements paused. Very soon. Before Huashidu could react, Bei Yunj retreated into his arms. She flipped her long hair in a serious manner. Her bright and beautiful eyes were filled with a lazy smile. Let's drive. Brother, why are you pulling the zipper so slow? Obviously, the child knew that he wasn't angry. He did it on purpose. Bei Yunj thought about the past few times when this man had deliberately teased her after getting drunk. This time, she was in a good mood. However, she did not know that Huashidu, who was beside her, was staring straight at her. His eyes could not be seen clearly. Yun. Bei Yunj had just turned her head when the man bent down and pressed his face against her neck. His low and hoarse laughter, along with his hot breath on her neck, made her shiver unconsciously. The man's arm gently wrapped around her back. From the window, it looked like he was hugging her. The next moment, his handsome eyes were a little careless and mischievous. His voice was low and lazy. It was frivolous and flirtatious, it made her ears burn. Brother, you don't put on clothes quickly. It's faster to take off clothes. Bei Yunj's heart skipped a beat for some reason. She also felt the man's unconcealed gaze. Immediately after, the man chuckled casually. After straightening up, he slowly raised his hand and fastened Bei Yunji's seatbelt. Bei Yunji, she could not beat him. You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.